Hello, hello. No big show intro today if you're here and can hear me and joining us. Um, for those of you coming in, we appreciate you being here. I hope y'all can hear me okay. Let me look and see. All right, so if you guys are just tuning in, we are going to be watching the Coburger status conference coming up here in just a few minutes. And we're also going to get to some hurricane coverage. Um, as we come to air here, the hurricane has reached Category 3 status. So great, you guys can hear me good. Um, yeah, so it's reached Category 3 status. It's becoming even more dangerous than it was last night. It'll probably continue to do so throughout the day. So we're going to be bringing live updates about that here as well, and talking hurricanes in a little bit. But I'm going to keep refreshing this page and see if we can get the hearing hasn't started yet, so when it does, I'll put it up on screen. I think I got my screen stuff straightened out. Hey, hun, thanks for coming in and joining us. How are you? On my part of Florida, we are faring pretty decent right now. I did notice I was out there a little bit ago, and the wind is really starting to pick up. And I'm a pretty good ways away from the center of that storm, and I'm on the good side. So I know it's getting real windy down on the west coast of Florida. It has to be. I pulled up some buoys out of the Gulf of Mexico earlier. You can look, and I always like to look at the buoy reports and they're not like hour, like minute by minute. Some will tell you they're 2 hours old on the data and different things. During Hurricane Ivan, one of the buoys sitting right out in the Gulf, off the coast of the Gulf Coast here, they recorded like a 90-foot wave. And I don't know, I think at that time, and it maybe still is, was the highest reported wave from a buoy during a hurricane. Those are nothing to play with. That's a serious wall of water coming at you. Yeah, so you are getting the rain there. Boy, and that constant rain, that's the worry of the flooding and all the things that can occur. Even down here where I'm at, if we get the feeder bands, come around really good and hard, it can dump a lot of rain in a matter of minutes, cause a lot of flash flooding, which is dangerous. Hey, Stevens, Adventure. Glad you're here. It's been a minute since we've seen you. I'm just checking, guys, to make sure the hearing hasn't started without us. It looks like they're not started yet. I don't know how long this hearing is supposed to go. I did notice that I went last night and double checked the docket there in Idaho, and they had several hearings scheduled out for Latah County. All those have been canceled, of course. So today, what they'll be doing is, I guess, setting dates for all those that they had to reschedule. Yeah, Sally, it was a mess, wasn't it? Like, I wasn't, that hurricane was just, it got on my nerves. It's like, you're here to annoy me, basically. Go away, Sally. That barge hit our bridge and did some damage and caused us a ruckus for a few months, but it's all good now. We aren't too far from each other, are we? We can't be. Steven, you getting rain off this? Yeah, we're going to pull up the map and stuff here in a little bit and look at the latest updates. And I do want to try to, I don't know how long we'll stay on live today or during this session, but I will come back in the evening and tonight. Joe Schmo and I were talking different things. I know when I have a hurricane hit here and we lose power, you got a radio. If you thought ahead of time, you do have a radio with batteries. Not everybody does. You rely on your phone. I can go to the phone, go to the car and charge my phone. I can do all kind of things to keep the phone charged. But when the power goes out and things start going down, you may not have a lot of ways to get information. So um, I'll do my best to try to get information out so those who can at least get on social media can come in and get a quick update. Yeah, I'm not far from Navarre Beach at all. I'm actually messing around close to Navarre Beach all day, every day, Monday through Friday. I was just out there yesterday. It's relatively calm and quiet. We had a house sitting out in the bay for about 3 months after Hurricane. We don't wish this storm on anybody, do we? Anybody within the range of the fallout. I hope everybody got to safety, got away from the water, any low-lying areas, any unsafe shelters, dwellings, your house, your home, whatever. Get somewhere safe. I have family in Tallahassee. Um, One of them came home, and one has to stay because of their job, but they're relatively safe. But it's supposed to get pretty crazy there. Okay, we're still waiting on this live to kick in, guys. I'm gonna make sure they haven't started. Let me refresh things over here. And it does not look like they've started yet. I'm so curious to know more about the new judge. I kind of checked out some things about him. I think it's going to get interesting with with this judge. And sorry, I was reading something. He's got quite the experience at handling the high-profile cases. He had a lot to do with when they transferred over from. Sorry, I got distracted. Lori Vallow case. Here, let me get the screen up. Guys, I got it up as everything up as loud as it will go. So be sure to let me know any issues. Let me get the screen up. Oops, I muted it instead. All right, here we go.
All right. Good afternoon. This is State v. Koberger. I want to go over the appearances this afternoon on behalf of the state. Would state attorneys please represent themselves for the record?
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Lake County prosecutor. This Ashley Jennings, she's my senior deputy. And then we have Mr. Nye and Ms. Beatty from the Attorney General's office. And then we have victim support staff with us.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Defense?
Ann Taylor, attorney for Brian Koberger, Elisa Massa, and Jay Logston, counsel for Mr.
Can you
Koberger.
guys hear it okay? I have on a headset and I can barely hear it.
All right. Like to tell you I'm happy to be here, but why start with an untruth? I am accepting of my responsibility to be here. I want to go over with you some expectations of mine, given that I don't think any of you, other than Ms. Massoth, have appeared in front of me before. When you file memorandums of law, briefs, etc., please provide a Word copy by email to my staff attorney. After today's hearing, you may get that from staff here today. Today, I know there was an issue that was brought up with respect to Mr. Koberger's attire for today. I did issue an order yesterday permitting him to appear in civilian clothes for this hearing only. That is a matter in terms of future hearings that we will take up in a closed hearing the day of, but in advance of whatever our next hearing date will be. My intention will be that Mr. Koberger will not be present for that hearing because part of what we will be discussing are security measures. And I expect to hear from the transport deputies and the bailiffs regarding security issues that they want to address or that I have questions for them about, so that I can make an appropriate ruling in terms of his appearance here, but weighing that not just against, of course, his rights, but also against the needs of security in this case. I do expect, as it probably will come to no surprise to you, for you all to get along. I understand the stakes in this case are as high as they can possibly be in any case, but you are professionals. You have taken oaths, both as of officers within your jurisdictions, but also as attorneys before this bar. So I expect at all times for you to remain civil to one another, that you not engage in personal attacks, ad hominem attacks, that you not engage in theatrics, not misstate the facts or the law to the court, and that when you cite arguments in your briefs, if there is contradictory precedent, I expect to see that. I appreciate in advance what should go without saying that I've just said in terms of your responsibilities. But again, I just want to highlight that because I understand when the stakes are high, sometimes victory seems to be the objective when our first objective is to conform to the oaths that we've taken as members of the bar, as officers of this court. All right. I do have some matters with respect to scheduling that I want to go over today, but before I do that, I'd like to hear from you with respect to the matters that you either need to make me aware of or want to make me aware of. The other thing before I do that, though, I do know that Judge had entered a non-dissemination order. That still remains in place. And unless I, for some reason, remove that order, it will stay in place, and I expect it to be religiously adhered to by all parties, counsel, victims, counsel for the victims, and I will not tolerate violations of that. Likewise, I know that much of the evidence in this case has been subject to orders sealing under that dissemination order or otherwise have been sealed by the court. I likewise expect everyone that has access to that information, whether it's sealed documents or information in sealed hearings or the information itself in the documents, to adhere to the confidentiality expected as it relates to those. Okay, that's my one and only lecture for you for the remainder of this case. With that, let me hear from you. We'll start with counsel for the state.
Your Honor, I don't know that we have specific questions we want to propose today. We're looking forward to hearing the scheduling. I think that's going to drive for us, particularly the distance involved, any questions that we may have. I appreciate what you've already.
That camera
mentioned to
angle's a
us,
little
and
off, guys.
we'll
That's
certainly
not me
honor all
chopping
of
his
it.
head off, I promise.
Taylor?
Thank you, Your Honor. There are a few issues that I wanted to make the court aware of as the court decides on the scheduling order. We want the court to know that our team has been working towards the June of 2025 trial date that had been issued by Judge in the case. But in candor to the court, I need to let the court know some issues that have come up that we face that causes me concern. First, I think the court's probably aware of the vast amount of discovery that's been exchanged in the case by reviewing the record. But since August, we have received about 398 gigabytes of new information, and I can tell the court that nobody on the team has read every bit of that yet. So there's a vast amount of discovery to continue to go through, and I wanted the court to be aware of that. The second thing is that during the course of this case, we had an expert that we were working with, and that expert passed away. We have been able to refill that role to have a new expert to do the work that that expert was hired to do, but we are not progressed to the point that I'd hoped to be through no fault of the new expert. The court should be aware of that as well. And last, as the court is very well aware, the system of delivering public defense is changing next week. As appointed counsel in the case, I do not have a contract yet. Nobody on my team is under contract. I thought the court should be aware. Further, we have been able to access funding to help us prepare this case through Idaho Criminal Rule 12.2. At the current time, we're working with about 25 experts and investigators to prepare the case. I don't know if 12.2 will continue to be the way to get funding for those experts and investigators, or if that's changing. And I thought the court should know those things. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am hopeful that Mr. Frederickson will ensure that the contract is available for you and your team next week. I have no control over that, of course, other than to, as it relates to who I permit to withdraw from this case or not withdraw from this case. As to 12.2 funding, my understanding is, and I've had a discussion with Judge Munson, who has been serving, as I understand it, as what we refer to as the money judge. I've asked him to remain in that capacity at least through the transition to the state public defense system in next week on October 1. My understanding is, and perhaps I will come to find out something different, but that once it goes to that system 12.2 as it relates to public defense funded attorneys on contract seeking 12.2 funding, that's no longer a thing, that would come through the state public defense budget, essentially. I guess we'll find out if that becomes a problem down the road, but that's my understanding, because that whole system that 12.2 is based upon is coming to an end. So given your statement about the trial date, my proposal to move this case forward into May is probably not going to land well with you, but that's what I wanted to talk about, is the timing of the trial. I'm concerned with a trial as currently set for a number of reasons, but first I want to find out from you, as you sit here today, what that trial looks like in terms of the number of weeks of trial, starting from after a jury is selected through the end of the evidence and before any potential sentencing phase. So what are your estimates of that?
Your Honor, I think it would be a fair estimate based on what we know at this point to have a month and a half or perhaps a bit more just for the evidence for the guilt phase of the trial. I say that knowing.
Both just, is that just your evidence or does that include defense evidence?
Well, I was just getting ready to say, I say that understanding or acknowledging that Ms. Taylor has estimated 2 to 3 months total I do not know, we do not know what the defense has in mind for their case right now, so all I can speak to is what we anticipate for ourselves. But I would think the state's evidence in chief should be able to come in a month and a half or so.
Ms. Taylor?
Your Honor, we estimate 4 weeks for the defense portion of the trial case.
Of the guilt phase?
Yes, Your Honor.
So 10 weeks. In terms of if there is a penalty phase, should the defendant be convicted of one of the statutory qualifying offenses, how long do we estimate the penalty phase being?
You're right. From the state's perspective, I believe we're going to be relying heavily on the evidence that's introduced during the guilt phase, and the additional evidence that would be brought in, unless there's something we learned from the defense about their experts, it is probably take no more than a week.
Taylor?
Your Honor, I would estimate 2 weeks for that part of any trial,
That's
for our evidence.
for your
only.
evidence.
Yes.
Okay. Because this trial is currently set to begin June 2nd and end approximately August 31st, is having it set to run the entire course of the summer, I think we will find to be difficult on jurors in particular. Jurors who may have children who are out of school in terms of being able to spend time, go on vacations with them, et cetera. That's one concern. Second concern is with school that typically starts in mid to late August, and jurors or parents who may have kids going off to school, the timing of that through August. And that's my primary concern about that time frame. I had two proposals. One was to start the trial in the evidence portion of the trial the first week of May. And the other would be to start the evidence in early September. And I'd like your thoughts on those. I'm not saying I'm have or necessarily will vacate the June trial date, but I want to look at alternatives here because I am concerned about that spread that takes the entirety of the summer.
And we hear you, Your Honor. By way of history, the summer, we advocated for that in Latah County because the courthouse is right across from the high school and the summer would have the students gone. If we were looking at the other two choices, we would propose May.
Taylor?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would have to advocate for September at this point, based on the 3 reasons that I gave the court before.
So I'm not going to worry about the public defense change because I think that will take care of itself. The one thing that you brought up the most, I mean, I understand there's a lot of evidence, but May is not tomorrow. May is many months away. So the one that concerns me that you brought up is your expert. I'm not asking you necessarily to give away any secrets prematurely that you may have in terms of defense strategy, but can you help me understand this expert if you're able to, and what their role is and what the prospects are?
Your Honor, it's really difficult to tell you much about the expert without giving away a lot. I can tell you that this is a very necessary expert for us to have on board. We've been able to find somebody to fill the role. I'm confident in the person that will fill the role. there just hasn't been enough time to get the work accomplished yet. I know that that doesn't tell the court a whole lot more than what I said before, but I really feel that that would disclose too much for me to say more. I could do so on an ex parte basis or with Judge Monson, our resource judge, but not in a public setting.
I understand. Do you anticipate being able to fulfill your obligations for your current expert disclosure deadline that was set by Judge?
No, not with a lot of confidence. I think that the work is going to take longer than to meet that deadline. I think if we met that deadline, I would have additional information that I would want to be able to present. And maybe I would have been stopped from that with that deadline.
So I don't have a motion to extend that date, obviously, and with the changes that occurred, I understand why you didn't file one out of the box. Is that, if I'm not mistaken, for experts on the defense side?
That's one of our deadlines, Your Honor, yes.
I guess does the state have anything to say in response?
Not knowing the details of the challenges Ms. Taylor and her team are facing, I don't really know how to respond further, Your Honor.
What do you think is a realistic deadline for you to be able to disclose your experts for everything? I'm assuming it was January, all save that one expert. But with respect to the expert you had to replace, when do you think you could disclose consistent with the scheduling order?
Other than the expert that had to be replaced, Your Honor, there were two separate deadlines. One was for trial experts and one was for mitigation experts. And I believe that I can make that deadline other than that one expert,
Can you tell me if the one expert is a mitigation or a trial expert?
a mitigation expert, Your Honor.
And what do you think you need for that mitigation expert in terms of a deadline? Compared, that mitigation deadline was,
I believe it was March. I don't recall the exact date.
yeah, so that's a long time from now. So, I have a lot of questions, but I'm hesitant to ask you the questions because I'm sure you're not in a position to answer them currently, given the forum. So, but March is a long time from now.
Your Honor, the time passes very rapidly, and I appreciate the court not asking questions I can't answer. I think if I had an end of April deadline for that one witness, I think we could make that deadline.
So understanding this is a mitigation expert, Thompson, how concerned are you about getting that disclosure closer to trial?
Closer to trial is somewhat relative. The end of April sounds like it would be on the eve of trial from the date the court is proposing. I think that would be, I'm not sure that would be realistic. And again, I'm not in a position to second guess
Sure.
what Ms. Taylor and her team are representing to the court. She had told us some time back that one of her experts had some health issues, and I think that she did tell us that that person had passed away and they were working on a replacement. If we're looking at a mitigation disclosure at the end of April, I don't know that we could be ready with all the final trial preparation for a May trial. I hate to say that, I feel like I'm cutting my own throat in a sense, but that's realistic.
Well, I can do one of two things. I can set a separate hearing ex parte to explore this further, but I frankly don't know how far that's going to get me. I mean, I can set a date, and my experience tells me that date will be complied with regardless, right? 24 hours in a day, but if you use enough of those hours, enough days in a row, you get it done if you have to. At the same time, I don't want to put unrealistic deadlines. And so I can do that. I can have an ex parte hearing, or we can go ahead and reserve September. I will throw it to you, Mr. Thompson, is what you want, what you would advocate for.
Could I have just a moment? Your Honor, we trust the court to do the ex parte hearing, see what's there and make the best decision and tell us what the expectations are.
Well, do you want to do that later today, or do you want to do it tomorrow? You need more time? You want to come back next week?
Your Honor, I had planned to leave town today. I have other case-related obligations tomorrow. I could do it as soon as this hearing's over if the court has time, or I can come back next week at the court's convenience.
I think we'll probably be finished in here by 3 if we were to do it immediately after. Are you comfortable with that? Does that give you enough time to get to the airport?
Yes,
We'll give that a shot. All right. If I move this one way or the other, I will adjust the various deadlines that are in here. I won't adjust the next deadline that you have, understanding that you may be already committed to it, which I think is the motions related to the defense's motion regarding the death penalty, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the next set of hearings that we have?
those are now scheduled.
I believe that our briefs are due the 10th of next month with the hearing later this fall and a reply brief deadline for the defense. And we are on track to meet those deadlines, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, you were saying, counsel?
Your Honor, I'm guessing the court has received our motions already. I believe we were set for November the 7th.
I think the state's deadline for discovery has passed. Has the state complied with its discovery obligations, including those outlined in judge's last order and other orders?
We have, Your Honor, and in fact, Ms. Jennings prepared a lengthy summary of all the discovery that was filed with the Latah County Court when our discovery deadline hit. It is lengthy, but there's a lot of discovery.
Sure.
We recognize
How
that
much of the, would you say 300 gigabytes?
398 since August 13th.
How much of that is new information?
Ms. Jennings could speak to that.
Ms. Jennings, can you speak to that?
Your Honor, the defense was given, and I'm not sure if this is what they're referencing, but they were given a copy of the OneDrive from the FBI. Most of that was cumulative discovery that they had already received in another fashion. I'm sure there were portions of it that was new information. I've not calculated how much of that was new. So I can only rely on Ms. Taylor's, what she's represented to the court on that.
Well, I don't think she knows because it doesn't sound like she's looked at it yet.
All of it, Judge.
All right. Well, I will talk when we're finished here with Ms. Taylor without the state present in a closed hearing. What else do we need to talk about today, or do you want to talk about today?
Nothing comes to mind right now, Judge. I know that there will be plenty of opportunity for other discussions. As far as your meeting with defense ex parte, do you want the state for any reason to stay around, or would you like us to get on the road back to Moscow?
Are you flying or driving?
Driving.
Okay, well, why don't you hang around just in case we need to, if I'm able to make a decision based on that, I can inform you what that is at least.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything further, other than your your motions regarding the death penalty? Do you have any outstanding motions and the motion as it relates to Mr. Koberger's attire?
Your Honor, there's now the compelled deadline. As far as discovery goes, I anticipate there may be some follow-up motions. I, of course, will first try to speak with the prosecutor to resolve those.
Right. I think you will find I'm probably more inclined to hear things more quickly than you're perhaps accustomed to in this case. So just be aware of that. It'd probably be more along the usual, 14-day timeline with respect to motions. If there's a lot that needs to be done with respect to them, we can talk about that. But okay.
On that point, Your Honor, as you can see, they're a multifaceted team. And on motions, we try to assign them to specific attorneys. On various motions, would it be acceptable to the court for those attorneys who are not actively arguing the motions to be able to participate remotely? Or would you like us to be present? We're happy to do either.
I'm fine with that. I just prefer those that are going to be arguing to be here, just because it makes it easier to have that dialogue. So
Okay, thank you.
the others, if they want to appear remotely, that's fine.
Thank you.
And same for defense as well, depending on what defense wants to do. Okay. All right. Then if there's nothing else this morning or this afternoon, I guess we will be adjourned and have a discussion in a few minutes. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Back in a few minutes once the courtroom is cleared.
I had to get my headset back on. I couldn't talk. Oh, goodness. Let me see. And remove that screen out of our way. Okay. I don't, from what I can gather, I guess they're going to have another part of this hearing. But I'm assuming it will be closed. We'll see if they come back or not. So I don't think this judge is going to play around with taking up all the time we can. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
He's like,
I
it's going to
totally
take 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks for this and that, and let's do it. That he's not going to be like the other judge and just be
Dragging his feet.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell just, Anne's used to things going a certain way and flowing a certain way, and she's used to getting the things that she's asked for. I don't know if this guy's going to play ball that way.
Right.
I mean, he's like, you got your evidence. If they turned it over, get busy on it so we can get this going. And I guess they're going to have to decide on when they want to do this trial. I don't get why Ann Taylor needs till September
Yeah, I
versus
don't either.
I don't care how many expert. I understand you had to replace one because there was a death, but well, I don't understand what these experts need so long for. I don't get it.
Yeah, it seems like there would be enough time between now and when.
I mean,
And if I was him, if you're innocent, I would want a trial faster, a speedy trial.
everybody says that. They go back and forth over the speedy trial, not speedy trial. I'm sorry. If I'm innocent, I need a speedy trial so I can get up out of here. Because if I'm
Right, I don't
really,
want to be in jail.
well, I mean, come on. If you really are innocent and you know that in your heart of hearts, then they're only going to have circumstantial evidence at best. And then you have to have a good attorney to help you fight that. And he's got that to help circumstantial evidence. But what are your experts going to prove or disprove here? What's going to take them that long to figure out their argument, if you will?
Mhm.
Because if we just base that on what, as we know, the evidence they have, the DNA sheath, she's already going to try to get that out. Or is it experts pertaining to that? Are these experts pertaining to cell phone data, or are they experts pertaining to grainy car footage? Like which one you want? There's three things that
Right.
I can see that I just don't get it. I thought it's a long time. Over here, some court cases battling just to get a dollar to even hire an expert.
hmm
Idaho has a different way of funding it though. But I saw where she was going with that. When they changed over to the state prosecutors, the state public defender office, that is when Ann went to that office. And that was the whole business about her resigning a few months ago. She didn't resign as a public defender. She resigned from the county office because she's moved up to the new state office, which doesn't take effect until next month. So her coming in there and saying I'm operating without a contract was a little slightly misleading. And like the judge said, all that's going to work itself out because that's literally um, clerical stuff, right?
hmm
Um, the state's
What
going
did
to,
he mention about the budget or something? I think I missed that part.
well, they
He
have
was talking about.
there's a budget they do work out and they get monies for their defense. And she's gotten quite a bit of money
Right.
already. She's been approved all the things that she's been asked for, but because she's no longer representing him from a county public defender's office, she's moved to the state
hmm
office. The state will now be paying her
Okay.
her attorney fees and any expert fees that come in that she brings in. I read about all that when she switched over. Like if I know that, Ann, you already know that, so you know the funding's going to be there. But literally, apparently, it's not his job to. It's like the court's office job, because it is a whole
Right.
new. It doesn't even go into effect till next week, and once all that switches over, the rules they used before under Idaho rules won't even apply anymore to the new position she takes. But all her funding should now come from the state level versus the county level, which is going to give her more. They have more money in the state level to work with
Okay.
than the county does. And Latah County was being sucked dry. I mean, I'm not taking up her covert or putting them down for their defense, but as a
Right.
whole, the county was being sucked dry because of this one case
Right.
with all the things that go on with it. Um, so it's going to benefit her in the long run to get the state funding, so to pay her experts. But that's a long time. These trials are getting ridiculous as far as needing to be set out 2 years later, or and Sarah Boone is a great example of that. If
Oh,
that
geez.
police
Yeah.
officer had read the Miranda rights word for word off a little tiny card, they couldn't be standing in court arguing about a hearing that we need to have to do a video to make sure they read it correctly. Because we could mess up this whole case if it wasn't read correctly. All the more reason to
Right.
do it right in the beginning. You know, there's so many things that can come along and delay a trial. And it feels like the things that are causing delays in this trial
Shouldn't be.
they're kind of like purposefully done almost. We could just, if we can get a postponement or an extension or whatever we need to get, we'll get it and do it. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's going to help in the long run. How much time does the one expert need to work on one part of a case?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because they're all going to have their different parts. Was glad to hear though she finally got her information from the FBI whenever they kept going to court and arguing about discovery and the state's not turning over this and that. And like everybody was arguing about it on YouTube. And it's like it clearly said it was the FBI who wasn't giving over the information or the rest of what
Mhm.
she wanted, which was
Right.
standard FBI procedure. And then, finally they got the subpoenas for the FBI. And now she finally has what she had asked for. So maybe everybody will calm down about that because it wasn't all states' discovery that they were arguing about. It
Right.
was a lot of the FBI discovery as well. And, you can argue with them all day long. They're the FBI. They
Right.
didn't, they,
Well, I
well, they
think
didn't
part of
do
it
it.
was they didn't want to disclose how they came to that because it was
Yeah, they're not going to disclose their confidential information on investigative
right.
tools. I mean, come on. They do this. It's
Mhm.
not, they didn't just do what they did in just this case only. Now, are they perfect? No. Should the way they do things be questioned? Yes. But it was
Right.
not any different. And she had to go the
Right.
right course to get such. When she first asked them for all their information, that they got what the FBI wanted to give, and then she had to get those subpoenas. Even with those subpoenas that she did receive, they still don't have to turn over all everything that you asked for. So I'm assuming that maybe she's happy with what she did get. Because in the beginning, she she stood in court and said that she had the FBI reports, but what she wanted to go with it was emails and notes, which
Right.
generally you don't get. She wanted the extras as well, and then she ended up getting them. And it's when because she even stood there in court, gosh, months ago during one of her hearings, and she put her hands on the desk, and I'll never forget it because she said, "I have everything on the car." I said, "Oh, really?" Because I'm watching people fight for you on YouTube for 2 weeks about you not having all you need about that car. And she's like, "I have everything I need. I just want this one report, or I want this one email exchange." And the one email exchange was, "What date did you change the date of the car you were looking for, of the year rather?" The
Mhm.
little thing, so she can tie that story together. And I get it. You need all that because it's important in your timeline of events and how you came to my client. But she's quieted down on all that, how you got to my client talk. So maybe she's figured out how they got to her client. And now we go from here. So it'll be interesting. Did you get a different take on this judge than you did with Judge? Can you hear me? Or did you? Let me see. Can y'all hear me? I never know with the swamp signal.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. I think he's more to the point. Like he wants, like you said, like he wants to get things done, and
Well,
I
he
guess we'll
called
have
Ann
to
out.
see with his
Yeah, he
other.
said he didn't even think she had looked at the materials she had received.
Oh,
What did she say it was? The new things she just got. I wrote it down. 390 gigabytes since August.
mhm.
In where that you've had a month. If you started looking at it, it was basically what the judge said. That's literally your job.
Yeah. I
Start
think
going
he's
through.
gonna question more of their
Yeah,
tactics.
yeah. Well, you got a team of attorneys sitting around you, and all of you guys have your legal assistants and your all the things. Someone should already be going through that information
Well,
and pulling.
definitely, if that's something that they were wanting. in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and then now they have it, you would want to jump on that to make sure.
Yeah, right. I'd be like, first things first, let's dive into this evidence dump and see what we got here.
Yeah, I
Because
wouldn't be waiting a
you
month. I'd
never
want to
know.
know.
Yeah, and if there's anything nefarious going on, or
Mm-hmm.
you want to find it quickly as you can get to work on it. Um,
Exactly.
it seems like a lot of technical stuff, but that she talks about anymore when she comes to court, and which is going to probably be her only game plan in the end. But unless she can pull some rabbit tricks out of her hat that's going to prove he was just out stargazing, riding around over here, and I don't know where car y'all got that car from, but it wasn't his. That you got to prove that. I get
Yeah.
the state's burden of proof and all that, but when you walk in and offer up an alibi, it is kind of on you to prove your alibi. You just don't get to walk in here
Mm-hmm.
and say it. Just because you said it doesn't mean you spoke it into existence, and that's exactly what we're just going to take that for granted. That's what you did. You said you did it. You know.
But
Now
don't
you
you
got to
think if he
prove.
could prove his alibi, he wouldn't have been arrested to begin with?
Well, you'd think, and you would think that you wouldn't need your attorney to say, "We'll show we were out riding around
Right.
by questioning the state's own experts." So you're
Right.
saying that their experts are going to be wrong about the car they saw because your client was over here in that car, but where's the proof he was over here in that car? Other than you telling me
Mm-hmm.
he was. That's as bad as them coming in here saying this is his car on camera, and I'm like, it don't really look like it. I can't tell what it is.
Right.
I can't base a decision on this grainy car footage, no more than I can base it on his word that he was over here at Wawa Wee. I need some
Mm-hmm.
proof. I need proof of everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, she did stand behind his innocence, but I don't know.
Well, I've talked to other defense attorneys and things, and a lot of them were surprised that
Mm-hmm.
she actually got there and said it the way she said it. And a lot of them said that even if you think it, you may not feel it. You know what I mean?
You
It's,
don't
you've
say
got to
right.
if you walk out there and give the impression you believe your client is innocent, or I mean, I'm sorry, guilty, will you be or appear as effective as you need to be? Do you know what I mean? You need to be confident in your
Mm-hmm.
client, but that's a pretty big line to jump to say I know that he's innocent. You know what I mean? Unless she absolutely knows it. If she absolutely knows it, I don't know why it would take so long to go to trial to prove it. How
Right,
hard
that's all
could
I was saying. I mean,
could
for me, it's more
yeah?
of a common sense, than letting him spend all this time in jail when if you really have the information you need to clear him,
I
then
mean,
I don't know.
if you think you can absolutely prove it, and you've come in court and you said my client, I firmly believe my client is innocent. I don't see how hard it would be to prove that,
Right.
or why it would
I
take
mean,
so long to
believing
prove it.
and knowing is two different things. So,
Well, because no one witnessed him over there driving around. It was in the middle of the night. He lost cell service.
mhm.
Nobody can prove he was doing it except for his word. Except the car can be seen headed toward Moscow when it should have been headed toward Wawawi. She claims that's
Okay.
exactly what happened. That wasn't his car going toward Moscow. His car was going toward Wawawi. Now we need an expert to come in and tell you the difference in these cars. That's how she plans to prove it wasn't him, is by saying that
Mm,
car y'all see is not him. Even though the phone pings match up and the phone goes out of. Now we need an expert for the phone to come in and tell you why that phone was off for 2 hours. Because
yeah,
while he was over here driving
but it's
around the
not. It's still
countryside.
nothing definite.
No. Hold on, I got a phone call coming in real quick.
Okay. She left me all alone.
Sorry, that was one of my children calling on his way home with stuff to make dinner. Like, good, because I don't want to make it. Y'all have at it.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
All right, hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out on the. Let me go back. Stop talking, dude. Sorry, I was looking at something on the computer. I was trying to see if. Let me go back over here to the judge's thing. No, they're not back in court yet. I don't even know if they were going to come back and do a live. So anyway, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll check the scheduling later. I don't know if it'll be updated today or tomorrow. I'll check the docket and see if they've scheduled any more hearings out, because I know they had to reschedule the hearings that they already had scheduled out. And it'd be interesting to see. I don't think this judge is willing to push this trial out to September to accommodate Ann Taylor any
Right.
further. Um, there's really no reason to keep pushing it out and pushing it out.
Because there really is no perfect time. I mean,
There's never going to be a perfect time.
no. Because then there's
I mean,
during school, which causes issues. And then there's
during
summer,
school,
which causes
yep.
issues. Yeah, there's always going to be issues.
And if you do it in the fall or the winter, you got the holidays. I mean, there's issues all the time. Court is court.
Right. Right. There's never going to be a
That's
perfect
how come
time.
another reason they want to know approximate weeks. These jurors have to know, well, how many weeks am I going to be unavailable to my job and my family?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're asking jurors to dedicate a good portion of their life to Brian Koberger in the Idaho 4
Right.
case. And, I see people out there really going hard after the families, especially the Congalvez family. They've been outspoken for a long time, but who am I to shut them up if they want to talk
Right.
about things? Because you cannot say, well, I would this or that if you have not been in those shoes, because you
Exactly.
absolutely don't know what you do in that moment. Now,
No.
there's some people out there who are really upset that they have a GoFundMe to get money to help them get to Boise for a trial. I'm sorry, but if you're looking at a 6-week trial,
Mm-hmm.
are you willing to be the one to fund that family while they go to that trial? Or are you going to tell them, too bad for you, stay home,
Right.
watch it on,
In
I mean,
my opinion, if there's a budget for defense, there should also be something for the families
yeah, the only way
as
you're getting
well.
compensated is if you are a witness and you're only going to get a small portion of money for your gas and your
Right.
food, maybe a
Right.
place to stay overnight if you're called to testify during a trial. But,
Mm-hmm.
family, and I know there's people out there who just absolutely don't care what the family goes through. Um,
Yeah, it's
be
not right.
careful with those feelings, because you never know when you're going to find yourself in a situation like that. Like, I don't really,
Very true.
all the families in all of these cases, to me, are just, I don't like talking about any of them. They're just off limits, unless
Yeah.
they are unless they're putting themselves in your face and they are making you talk about them with their certain Rogers
Yeah.
last name type person. Um, you know, Steve did come out and make, not accusations, but he had a lot of questions in the beginning, which only fueled the fire of this crazy case and the questions people were
Mm-hmm.
already asking, all that thrown together. And then he came out and said other things, and people were just like, I want to get all mad at him. And now they're mad because he's got to GoFundMe for money to get to the trial. It doesn't bother me. They got to
Yeah.
get there somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was a horrible, horrible crime, and I can't imagine having to go through that and then have people say something about it. And you're just wanting justice for your child. It's
yeah,
awful.
and I can't tell these families how to think or feel. Um, if they should presume innocence or and guilt, all that. I mean, I do. I presume he's innocent until proven guilty, but I also understand he's a defendant in a criminal case, just like all the other
Mm-hmm.
cases I follow. I will
Right.
not treat Koberger any differently than I do any of the other defendants I talk about.
Right.
I think it's insane to give him special privilege.
Right.
His rights are protected. Mine are protected. The victims
Right.
aren't so lucky. Their
Exactly.
rights are kind of non-existent as far as the Constitution goes. Defendants all should have the same rights, because if you start looking at the Koberger case and you look at the Delphi case, they're absolutely not
Hmm.
treated the same.
Right.
They're totally, totally different. Um, and it's weird that true crime as a whole, I understand you're going to follow certain cases, and you're going to be a little more devoted to a certain case over another one. But you can't say, oh, well, that Richard Allen guy deserves what he got. He made a confession. Do you know the whole story behind this alleged confession?
Right.
Maybe if he hadn't been thrown in a prison from the day he was arrested, practically, and guarded by a questionable guard, maybe
Right.
there wouldn't have been a confession. You know,
Hmm.
how can you? And it really irritates me when I see those comments about that case coming from a individual that I saw make comments about Koberger case and protecting and preserving his rights. I'm like, that is
Right.
like, talk out your
Contradicting.
ass or get it straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what are we doing here? You kind
Right.
of showing me how you want to bounce the ball, and I'm not liking it.
So you get to pick and choose which defendants have rights and which ones don't. I mean,
Exactly.
but what about victims' rights? Like they
Yeah.
always fall by the wayside because I mean, I understand there's a whole process and all that, but when it
Well, and
comes
that
to
kind of.
something like this,
Hmm.
it's just, yeah, it's not
Well,
right.
that's the whole purpose of Our Lady Justice. The blindfold,
Hmm.
the scales, the sword. We can't
Right.
allow things to be done in the dark. You know,
Right.
it has to be in the light. There's so much being done in the dark with Delphi. It's insane.
Right.
you, they make you question why they're doing things there. It's not like we just
Hmm.
decided, oh, look, we're gonna stir up trouble in Delphi and ask a bunch of questions. No, y'all gave me
Right.
real good reasons to ask those questions. You know,
Right.
um, as far as Idaho goes, everyone got their way, and rightfully so. You wanted to come out and fight hard for his rights to be protected. Well, they were, and they have been to the letter, if not way, deeper than most.
Hmm.
And that's when I saw a little bit of a shift today with this judge. He's like, okay, well, we got rights preserved here, but so let's get on with it.
Yeah. I mean,
And
there has to be some kind of balance, even though there never really is. Um, why isn't grace given to the families who are going through this horrific time? They're going to say things. They're going to do
exactly.
things that aren't normal. Show them some grace, unless they're obviously breaking the law on something. But if not, I mean, why trash them? It's not helping anything. They're already going through enough.
Yeah, when that first year, if you're walking the grief road and you lose a child, that first year is such an emotional roller coaster. But
Hmm.
if you lose a child in the way they did, and
Right.
there's so many what ifs and unknowns, and you can't get to a point where you can achieve certain closure's a really odd word to use, um, but it is used, and they can't get there yet because all of this other. So yeah, along the way they're probably gonna be mad one day,
Hmm.
heartbroken one day. They're gonna say that they will say and do things they won't even remember later.
Right.
They
Hmm.
that's just the nature of the beast. There's so many
Right.
things that go on, and it's been a year and a half, almost, well, going on 2 years now. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? That's a lot of emotions to try to come to terms with. They had other kids. All of the families had other children involved. Siblings were involved. There's just a lot of emotions, and then you couple it with all of
Everything, everyone
this.
else
Yeah,
putting in yeah,
yeah, yeah. And then when
taking it real life with the families and um
well, YouTube's got to figure themselves out, because even with the Stearns
hmm
case, the way we talk about Jennifer and the things that we see there, in the end, every single one of these cases has real people,
Right.
real lives, a real walk that we've never walked, their own reality that we have no clue what was in that reality, how in
Right.
touch they are with reality. I mean, come on, let's face it, there are some people out there who are not in touch with reality.
Very
And you may
true.
not feel that behind a keyboard, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, you
Yeah.
might get a suspicion there's something wrong with that person, but in reality, that person's way far gone out of reality, but you'll never know how far gone, you know?
Hmm.
It's just with the families, you kind of get to know them through the process. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If they're out there enough, some families just want to stay to themselves, and people get mad about that. Well, why
Right.
hasn't the family spoke out? Or they'll,
You
well,
damned if
now
you
they're
do, and you
speaking out.
damned if
That's
you
just too
don't.
much. Exactly.
Yeah.
You got this family won't speak out, then they're speaking out too much. Well, who the hell are y'all to make that call even?
Hmm.
There are some family members in certain cases I wish or feel should come out and say a little bit more,
Right.
but not a whole lot more because there's not a whole lot
Yeah.
left to say. But there's some that do need to settle down and, you know, get quiet. Steve G was one of those people. Like, just take a seat,
Yeah.
dude, take a deep breath,
I think I've just had enough of the victim
you
blaming.
know, and, you know, yeah. Hey, Sleuthy,
Far
12
too
gauge.
often it gets to that.
Yeah.
And the victims aren't to blame. Like if they wouldn't have done this and this, no, it's like it was none of it was their fault
No,
that
Abby and
happened.
Libby didn't do anything wrong that day except maybe go to meet somebody that they thought there was going to be a night. I don't even know if that happened. Allegedly, if they met somebody, it still don't make it their fault. Whatever these kids in Idaho were doing, nothing that I've seen and looked into, and I've looked into at all, made forced what happened that night. You know, Madeline Stearns didn't cause what happened to her. You know, none of these victims caused it. Down that are there victims who put themselves in situations that aren't ideal? Yeah, but it's still not their fault something happened. There's evil in the room, you know? And when we start recognizing evil for what it is, instead of making excuses for it or giving it a diagnosis, because I guarantee you there's going to be a diagnosis in Koberger's future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the diagnosis that's coming in the Stearns case. That's right, Sleuthie. It does not give them
Hmm.
any right to take their lives.
Exactly. I
It
agree
just
with that.
doesn't. No. I mean, I can get mad and cuss you out all day long, up and down. You go might have wished you could put me 6 feet under when I'm done, but we can't be killing each other.
Yeah.
I can scream and cuss at you all I want, as long as I don't do you in. I'll be all right. Sleuthie, I'm curious. Did you get any of that hearing a little while ago? What was your take on the new judge? I'm always curious to see what Sleuthie has to think about these judges. Sorry, I got to mute out 1 second. Hey, Jeff, how are you? Um, so, yeah, they haven't come back in the courtroom, so I guess they were doing a closed for this afternoon for whatever they were talking
Yeah.
about.
I think they were
And
just meeting.
yeah, and they weren't going to allow Koberger in the courtroom for the security briefing. Or not
Right.
briefing, but the hearing
Yeah.
they were going to hold for the security measures they were going to take. They don't want him to know what kind of security measures they're going to take. What if he communicates with somebody on the outside?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was reading, y'all. Yeah, it wasn't a long, it's just a status conference, but you get a little bit of a feel for this judge and how he may or may not operate. I don't think he's going to let Ann get away with long periods of time in between things. Jeff, he might decide to go sightseeing. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out with that new judge. Since they come down with some new dates, we'll look at them and I keep, man, my computer chair is not in its normal spot, and I kept hitting my desk every time I turned this thing. I'm gonna try to pull up a weather brief here, and also want to show you guys something in a moment. Oops, that is not it. Here we go. Pull this side up. This judge is experienced, Jeff. I pulled up a few things and watched on him. I think it was last night. I watched some more on him. I did a little bit more reading on him, and this judge is totally prepared. He's a top judge over there. He was assigned to this case. Now, he was not. Judge Boyce was the judge for the Daybell and Vallow, but this judge had a big part of those trials because of who he is and what he does over there. Yeah, this storm is getting quite dangerous. I'm about to show you guys something from a little bit ago. Somebody's out in the front slamming that front door. Being from Florida all my life, there are a few places I go to get my weather updates. You know, National Hurricane Center is one of them. NOAA is another one. Tropical Tidbits is another one that I like a lot. Yeah, the maximum sustained winds are 125, and I'll be honest with you guys, that's normal for this storm and for Florida. We if it doesn't get bigger than that, we're gonna look at that and go, okay. And I'm not being funny or blowing it off as a nothing deal because we know better. We live here, but
Mhm.
we're used to seeing that. Unfortunately, we just don't like it to
Right.
get any bigger than that. I faced 130-mile-an-hour winds during Hurricane Ivan. Um, it's not nothing to play with. It's very, very, very strong winds, sustained winds. Let me get this in the beginning here. Stop this. And if Joe can come up later and talk to us a little while, if we have to stop the stream in a little bit, I will, and I'm going to come back, like I said, to do more updates. And I want to see if Joe can join us later to talk about some like search and rescue type efforts and things that would go on with these storms because they're so
Oh, that would be
important.
interesting.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
get
I
this.
family up in the Carolinas, and I'm worried about
Whoops.
the impact. Not the impact, but the storms and everything that are headed that
Well,
way.
they'll get a lot of rain.
Yeah.
The thing about these hurricanes and people, by the time it gets upward toward the, say it starts to leave Florida, right? And it takes a
Mhm.
minute for that eye to come ashore, and it's going to take all this 250 miles stretched out. They're
Right.
going to get strong gusty winds, but they're not going to get a direct hurricane impact. They're just not.
Right.
They're going to
Right.
get gusty winds and a lot of rain,
Mhm.
you know. I hate to keep saying normal, but it is. It's weird to say. Weird to say normal and Hurricane Cat 3 all at the same time. I don't mean to sound like that. All right, let me play this. This is from a website, and he has a YouTube channel as well. It's a Dr. Levi, I'll call him. But the site is called Tropical Tidbits, and he always gives out really good information.
Hi, it's Thursday afternoon, September 26th. Update on Hurricane Helene tracking across the Gulf of Mexico, accelerating now and in its final several hours of approach to the Big Bend area of Florida. Landfall time has slipped maybe a couple hours, now expected to be somewhere in the ballpark of 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern time. And the storm is now Category 2, winds of 105 miles per hour with further strengthening expected, and Helene is likely to become a major hurricane before landfall, Category 3 and even possibly Category 4, depending on the
Well, I
details
know
of
it's
its
been
inner core
upgraded since this
evolution
report, and
over
this
the
was just
last
a
few
little
hours
earlier.
here. This is the infrared satellite animation showing the deep cloud tops continuing to form up around the eye, which has not yet cleared out. You'll see this kind of warm spot moving around a little chaotically. That's not exactly where the center is. The center has actually been kind of tucked under the west side based on aircraft reconnaissance data. And that's just because the inner core is still in this process of becoming crystally clear defined. And if there's any good news today, it's that the inner core wind field has been kind of broadened out during the past 24 hours, and this has prevented the very most extreme outcome with the most rapid intensification rates of Helene. This is the aircraft data kind of showing you where it's been tracking the center over the last couple of hours, and the wind speeds measured in coloring. You can see our strongest on the eastern side of the circulation, weaker on the west side just because it's moving so quickly now to the north-northeast. And you'll notice that on some of its legs going through the eastern eye wall, when it does this leg, you'll see that there's multiple places where the peak winds in light pink here are being measured. There's almost a double wind max that has been persisting with the storm's inner core structure since it left the Yucatan Peninsula area yesterday. The effect of this is kind of smearing out the momentum of the eye wall across a broader core wind field. And that smearing out means that the absolute peak winds so far have not increased to the absolute extreme that might be possible. There's still time potentially, and the concern is that these double wind peaks may merge together. And if we get a more complete and defined eye wall that becomes more compact in a consolidated ring, that could quickly jump the winds into Category 3 or Category 4 territory. We're likely going to have a Category 3 hurricane no matter what at landfall, with low-end Category 4 potentially on the table if the inner core really consolidates over the final few hours here. This is the surface map with radar from the National Weather Service. You'll see kind of the double ring structure here. This is the primary eye wall, but there's these concentric bands. You might see there might even be 1, 2, 3 in some sense here. If you kind of look at this, there's some structure where it's still a little double barreled, a little bit of concentric banding going on near the core. That shows you that smearing out of the wind field. Now, the good news is that the absolute peak winds are maybe slightly less than the worst expectations. However, the bad news is that the wind field is spread out over a much larger area. So you have this huge wind field. And what we're plotting here on this map are the wind gusts currently being measured greater than 50 miles per hour in some places on the western coast of Florida. And you can see how far they are from the eye at this point. And check out, Miami-Dade and Broward County on the other side of the Florida Peninsula, seeing tropical storm force wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour way over there. And so there's going to be wind impacts and hazards from power outages, et cetera, across the whole Florida Peninsula today as the storm makes its move and starts getting even closer to the peninsula. The other problem with this big fat wind field is it's just pushing so much water up the coastline of Florida, and it's all going to pile up, butting up against the western peninsula coastline, and then especially in the Nature Coast in the Big Bend area where the maximum water pileup is expected near and east of the landfall point across this whole section of coastline. Lots of flooding will be occurring there. You can also see there's a lot of rain coming out ahead of this, so flash flood concerns even west of the track are a big deal here, with high risk for flash flooding expected along the storm track as it moves through the Florida Panhandle and then into Georgia. Speaking of the track, this is the water vapor satellite loop, just showing you that there's still that upper level trough digging in here over Mississippi, and this is essentially what is guiding the storm now on an accelerated path towards the north-northeast. It's starting to move more quickly, and it will be very rapidly moving inland. And that's actually a big problem. You might think it would reduce rainfall, but there's still going to be big flash flooding concerns despite that. And it's actually going to bring strong winds well inland. So we're going to see deep penetration of hurricane force winds possible as the storm moves inland from the coastline. And so Georgia, expect big power outage issues and trees potentially getting blown over, power lines, etc., due to hurricane force wind gusts even well inland from the Gulf Coast. Now, in terms of the landfall location, there's going to, of course, be a lot of attention paid to the wobbles in the track and where exactly Hurricane Helene's eye is going to cross the coastline. Just to give you a brief overview, this is the current satellite picture, well, about an hour old as of this recording, but this is the set of model runs initialized early in the overnight hours, and where the hurricane is currently located relative to the expectation at about 1 p.m. Eastern time. So these teal dots are where the models expected the hurricane to be located at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And the little dimple here where the eye is, the center was tucked kind of right in here at this time. So relative to the expectation, it's pretty close. It's a touch slower. That's why the landfall time has shifted just a little bit later in the evening. But you can see that on this set of model tracks, it's essentially on its route toward what the modeling consensus says will be a Taylor County land. Wakulla, or even eastern Franklin County, that whole area could theoretically see the eye coming ashore. But it's important to realize that in some sense, this won't matter for a lot of places just because the core is so large. And if I give you an example of that, the HAFS model shows the size of the core eye wall wind field. Everything in purple is hurricane force or stronger. And if you move that into the coastline, all 4 of the counties that I just mentioned would be seeing impacts from the eye wall. So it's not like if the eye goes into Taylor County, the counties west of there won't necessarily get hurricane force winds and storm surge. That's not the case. But the big city that is worrying about this is Tallahassee, which is in here. And so the exact details of where the eye goes, if it's east of the city, the exact location will matter a lot for whether Tallahassee specifically is in the western eye wall with powerful winds that can bring trees down in that area. So they'll be paying close attention. Regardless, though, the entire Nature Coast, extreme impacts likely here. The east side is way worse than the west side as a general rule. For the wind here, the storm is moving very quickly to the northeast. So especially this northern eye wall and eastern eye wall will bring the strongest possible winds, and then storm surge inundation flooding could extend even miles inland from the coast with a storm like this. This is the National Hurricane Center official forecast, and this is just showing you all the hazards. Everything in red is a hurricane warning. You can see that these extend well inland into Georgia, almost all the way up to Atlanta. That's because the storm will be moving quickly, and so although wind speeds with the hurricane will decay quickly as it moves inland, they won't decay fast enough to get below hurricane force until it's deep into Georgia. So we could see wind gusts greater than 70, 80, 90 miles per hour, even in some of these inland areas. So be prepared for that. And that extends all the way down along the western Florida coastline as well, potentially as far down as Tampa Bay, where hurricane force gusts could occur. You can see the tropical storm force wind field in orange is extending over most of the southwestern Florida peninsula already. And we saw that that is verifying in observations. We have wind gusts over 40, 50, 60 miles an hour in South Florida right now as of this recording. So this wind field is huge, and it's going to cause hazards across most of the state today. Storm surge, the deadliest hazard, can't stress that enough. 15 to 20 feet of maximum storm surge inundation possible along the Nature Coast in the Big Bend area of Florida, with 10 to 15 feet as far west as Apalachicola. Some of that will depend on the exact track of the eye, but this is, in the worst case, how much in Florida Peninsula like Tampa Bay, 5 to 8 feet of storm surge will be flooding some areas. So please be aware of that and heed evacuation orders if they are given. Storm surge warnings are in place all the way down to the Florida Keys along the western coast of Florida. And there could be mild water level rises even along the southeastern U.S. coastline due to the southeasterly winds at near tropical storm force that will be pushing water into the coastline there as well. Flash flooding inland, a big concern over quite a wide swath of territory near the storm track as it goes in. You can see that some of this, even if the track is, say, east of Tallahassee, a lot of the flash flooding risk is on the west side because we have that upper level trough to the west of the storm. So a lot of the rainfall is actually going to get enhanced north and northwest of the eye as it comes ashore. So you see this corridor of flash flooding risk extending into the Appalachians, including much of Georgia. And please be aware of that. Turn around, don't drown, as the saying goes. Don't get caught in floodwaters on the roads in this area. That'll be it for this particular video update. Thinking of everyone, especially my alumni friends in Tallahassee, as the storm nears the area. This will be an extreme event for some places.
Okay, that one came out not long. I think that one was about an hour before it was upgraded to the Cat 3 status. And yeah, I think I am literally the only little section of Florida not under a tropical storm warning, hurricane watch, hurricane warning at this point. Not used to that. But yeah, that's a
The
crazy big
angry storm.
Yeah, we always call it the angry Gulf. The Gulf gets angry. I didn't make my way over to the coast. I'm usually over there every day, but today I didn't go over there. And if I had, I would have went out there and just stood and watched the Gulf for a while because there's no evacuations going on where I'm at. But the thing about these storms is, it's real easy for people to sit there and say just leave. What they need, not people in Florida, because they're the only ones that matter. They need to know to get off the water. There's literally nowhere else to go. You can go to your families that live in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, wherever. If you can get to family and you don't want to be here and be without power and be uncomfortable and all the things, absolutely go, but you better go early or you'll be stranded on the interstate in traffic. There's a lot of things that have to take place to get people away from the danger. Do they have a place to go? Do they have the money it takes to get away from the danger? All the hotels will fill up and be booked, and then you won't have anywhere to go. And when I tell you I rode out a hurricane in a car in a parking lot of a Holiday Inn in Montgomery, Alabama, because we couldn't get to Troy because the interstate was a gridlock of nothing but a sea of cars. They turned both sides of the interstate one-way traffic, and we still sat there for hours, hours, and hours. So yeah, by the time Hurricane Ivan come, there was no leaving. Been there, done that. We tried that, it didn't work. So just to say, it's so easy to say, well, you should have left. Well, it's not that easy. If you have children, if you have animals, if you have a home you got to secure and do all the things you have to do, then you got to leave a day or two early or you're going to be stuck trying to get out. And you don't want to be in your car riding out hurricane gust winds in Montgomery, Alabama, knowing you live in Florida. And now you got to drive. It's just crazy, And when you live on or near the water, you need to get away from it, because I've made that mistake as well and been in a house on the water when I never should have been, just shouldn't have done it, but I did. And it wasn't a matter of, oh, watch me be a Billy badass, I'm just going to stay. It wasn't like that at all. It was comparing that storm to other storms, comparing what happened in these storms as to compared to, and it wasn't like that. They tried to warn us with Ivan. This is a different situation. Storm surge is going to be, forget the wind. When I'm telling you, when we look at that 125 mile an hour wind, that's a dangerous thing to be telling Florida. We're used to 125 mile an hour sustained winds. We know how to ride that out. What they don't know how to do is ride out all that storm surge that's coming.
Right.
Because for years and years, that was not talked about as being a big problem. It really became that way with Ivan, and I think because there was so much social media and availability to get the messages out there, they really started hitting home with it, and I was paying attention. But it was still a novel thing to me as a lifelong resident who was very well trained to know what that wind could do. I was prepared for my roof to lift away and fly off with my babies in that house. I knew exactly what to do if that happened. They go under the mattress in the bathtub.
Right.
You can't be a panicker. You can't go, oh shit, what do I do now? You have to be prepared ahead of time. For better chances of survival and all the things that you need to happen. But it's just not, as simple as, now, do we have idiots that stay on purpose? Yeah. They just don't watch the news. They don't care. They can ride this out. It's not going to be. Yeah, we have them. But what are you going to do? Sometimes I walk through life holding the hands of people all the time that I don't think I should be having to hold their hand no more. But it is what it is. So you're going to have that little group that's always going to stay and ignore the news and ignore the emergency management. We have a jam up emergency management here in our county. They
Mhm.
closed the schools today out of a precautionary measures. Our kids could be at school. We have nothing going on over here. Like literally nothing. I don't even got the light. I mean, like you barely even notice it's rained. That don't mean it won't change tonight. You know what I mean? Tomorrow
Yeah.
they may have to close the schools because we will probably get a lot more rain tomorrow than we did today. So
Mhm.
it's just a matter of really educating the public and changing the way they do these hurricane predictions. I'm sorry. If you, as a lifelong resident who's dealt with these predictions all her life, spaghetti models all her life, they're getting way better at predicting where these things go. When this thing first started happening a few days ago, as far out as
Mhm.
it was, we wouldn't have got told then and there it's going toward the Big Bend area. We would have had to wait and see. We would
Wow.
all be high alert
We
until
have
we
more
wait
time
and
now.
see. Yeah. And then it's go time because you don't have much time left. The
Yeah.
last couple years, they've gotten really good at going further out with their predictions and being way more accurate. There was a time they weren't quite so accurate and they caught hell for it, which made us in turn look at them and go, well, are you sure it's going to go where you're telling me? Am I going to wake
Right.
up in the morning and see this thing has jogged completely to the west, heading due north, and now I'm in big trouble? You know,
Mhm.
and they couldn't do that for the longest time until they knew. And now they're so confident with their predictions, they can do it, a lot better. And so far, with this storm, they've been pretty accurate. I don't think I wasn't waiting for that northeast jog. It needed that to get away from me, and I
Right.
had to know if it was taking it or not. They're telling me for 2 days it's going to take it, but is it? You know,
Yeah.
is the timing still okay with the other systems you were using to judge on telling me where it was going to go? So that's the importance of really watching these long updates and learning about the structure of the storms.
Right.
If
Yeah.
especially if you're a Florida resident or if you're going to be living in Florida for any length of time,
Did you see Firefly's
hurricane
comment?
people think they're like thunderstorms.
Did you see Firefly's comment
I read an
about the
article where they
article?
were telling people who refuse to evacuate to take a Sharpie and write on their, yeah. I mean, that's all they've been saying that for a long time in Florida though. And even out like during Ivan when I me because I knew better. If you're in Florida, they're going to tell you should know this by now. And I don't mean this to be rude, but the first 72 are on you. If there's down trees and debris all around your neighborhood, they can't even get to you, right? They got to clear the roads to get to you, um, unless you're in a dire situation and need rescuing ASAP. There's just a lot of things, but I called that night not to tell them I'm here, we're gonna drown, come get me.
Mhm.
No, I called to be the adult to tell her who I am and where I was, so they could let my family know later. And she was like, we're gonna come as soon as. I said, no, you're good, don't. I didn't want that lady to feel bad for me.
Yeah.
I put myself in that situation, not her. I don't expect first responders to get out here in the height of a storm to come rescue me either for making a bad decision.
Yeah, because then their lives are put in danger as well.
Yeah, that was totally on me, and it was up to me to get myself through it, and it was up to me to get myself out of that house the next morning at daylight and walk out of that neighborhood to dry land, and then find my way to whatever I needed at that point. And then we had to go. What that was like day. I think it was day 2 after the storm. We had to drive all the way from here, all the way 2 hours away just to find gas stations that were open. And I didn't have any shoes. That poor lady at the gas station went to her car and got me shoes. I was going to buy some flip flops at the gas station, but the line was like 10 miles long because everybody found it at the same time. We were all. So
Oh, I
we
bet you got some
readjusted.
stories. I can just
Yeah.
imagine.
We walked outside one time. We were preparing for it was after Hurricane Ivan. We had a storm approaching. And it wasn't due to make a direct hit, but close enough. And my brother, and my niece were outside. We were doing something. He was getting ready to leave. We were just talking, and the wind was getting gusty, but we were just like tropical storm type gusts, which is no big deal. All of a sudden, somebody's little siding broke away, like a little square piece, and it come flying across the yard out of nowhere and barely missed my niece in the head. Like she heard it coming and she ducked, and we're like,
Oh,
it was
wow.
not, it wasn't even a storm. It was like a wind gust out of nowhere
Uh-huh.
as it was headed our way. Like little things can make it so dangerous. You have to be careful. Sorry, I was reading comment. Yeah, hurricane prediction is a iffy game. It was for so long, and it still is. And like he said a second ago, people want to, not people. Everybody gets tired of hearing that type of term, but in general, I was in a live stream last night from the Storm Chaser, and people that were local were asking, what are the impacts going to be? Oh, and I'm thinking, are they must not know much about hurricanes or haven't lived here a long time. It's not like it's a small storm and it's only going to hit a county and affect
Right.
the one county. It's going to affect even Hurricane Ivan. Technically, the eye wall came ashore in Alabama, but I was on the eastern quadrant right across the state line in Florida, and we were hit the hardest.
Wow.
Everywhere from Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Alabama, all the way down to Navarre, not even quite to Navarre Beach. That was your largest, hardest hit areas because of where that eye came. And also the angles they come in at and the tides. If you come in at high tide, you got a mess on your hands. And think of all that water in the Gulf, and it's hard to think of unless you see it the way I saw it happening. And when I
Right.
realized all that water came out of the Gulf and crossed over the beach into the bay and right up into the backyards and into our homes, I was like, man, that's a lot of damn energy bringing
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. So the way that this area is shaped around the Big Bend area, let me get this screen back up. I'll see if I can show his screen. Leave it on pause. Just this computer screen, just like where his arrow is pointing, just to the left of that, just the way that Florida is shaped right there. And it's a much lower lying area, even than compared to where I'm at. And I'm on the coast, it's all low lying. But right through there, it's even lower. And it comes in at an angle, and the way it's sling, and I'm going to use the word sling because when those feeder bands are wrapping around, it's literally slinging and throwing all that water up. It's not just a push anymore, it's a literal shove. up and around, up and around, and it's a constant thing, and that's where the danger comes in with all that coastal flooding and storm surge. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, when you've lived in Florida, they did not prepare enough to educate the public on storm surge until these storms start to happen. And then the public's like, well, you're saying it's 120-mile-an-hour winds. We're used to that. Yeah, we are.
Mhm.
But you may not be used to this level of storm surge you'll see with it. Not all Cat 3 130-mile-an-hour wind storms are going to have that type of storm surge. Storm surge.
Right.
It really just depends. And because of the way this one's coming in and the angles and the location, all of that is making a perfect storm situation to make it really bad. And I know there's going to be those few that just refuse to leave the beach, but it's here. There's
It's the
you
most
don't have a
dangerous
choice.
place to be. Yeah,
Yeah, there were a few
I
people
wouldn't
that
want to be
stuck
there.
around Mexico. Well, yeah, you would. I mean, I was in a house on a bay. I didn't. I
Mhm.
was not on a in a condo on the Gulf going watch me party. It wasn't like that. And are people who choose to stay directly on the beach. You have nothing to protect you.
The death wish. I mean, honestly, it's
The
crazy.
beach, yeah, when the beach, Pensacola Beach itself is a barrier island that they
Mhm.
chose to build on that protected the city, right? But it
Mhm.
became Pensacola Beach, and it is a barrier island, but a lot of it was destroyed in the process because of building. And so anytime like we have an area out there, Fort Pickens, and you go camping out there. If we get a good thunderstorm with a lot of rain, that place is done. They have to evacuate the campers and everything. If we get a
Mhm.
hurricane rolls through here, you can bet it's going underwater. They will get everybody out of there long before the storm gets here, because
Right.
the erosion and the rise. So you can believe they're already dealing with a lot of coastal flooding close to the shore, or along the beach itself already.
Mhm.
I will be. There was I had a. Let me see if I saved it. What did I do with it? Some live cameras from right there. Did I? Where's my play? Did I save it to there? Oh, I don't know if I saved that one I was looking at. If I can find it really. I can find it again. Um,
Mhm.
it's crazy to watch the live cameras and see the different things as they're happening. But I want to get a. I wonder where my other guys are at. Let's see what this one's got. Okay, it looks like we're getting a.
To move.
Hold on,
Because
a
of the
live update
widespread.
now.
Tampa Bay, we're expecting to see as much as 8 feet of inundation above ground level as those strong winds funnel the Gulf of Mexico water up into the.
I'm going to start this over, guys, because this is their latest update, I think. It takes them a
Good afternoon,
minute.
everyone. This is Mike Brennan here at the National Hurricane Center. It's just after 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, September 26th, coming on with the latest on very dangerous Hurricane Helene, which is rapidly approaching the Florida Big Bend coastline. Helene has strengthened today. It's a powerful Category 3 hurricane, maximum sustained winds of around 125 miles per hour. The center of Helene right now is located about 130 miles west of Tampa, but moving very quickly to the north-northeast at 23 miles per hour. And its expansive storm is going to make landfall this evening along the Big Bend coastline. And you can see in the radar imagery the well-defined eye. The data from the radar and the Hurricane Hunter aircraft have shown Helene strengthening today, expecting some continued intensification, and Helene could certainly make landfall as a Category 4 hurricane this evening along the Big Bend coastline. Very concerned about multiple life-threatening hazards that are going to start playing out here in just the next couple of hours. We're expecting between Apalachicola and Chassahowitzka, 10 to 20 feet of storm surge inundation above ground level, especially near and to the right of where the center of Helene crosses the coast. Again, 20 feet is enough to inundate a two-story building. There's going to be destructive wave action on top of that, especially near where the hurricane makes landfall. So this is going to create unsurvivable conditions in these areas. So hopefully everyone in those storm surge evacuation zones who's asked to leave by their local officials has gotten to a safe location. If you can still get out, please do so if you have time and it's safe to move. Because of the widespread storm surge threat along the entire Florida West Coast, all the way from down to Flamingo, up through the Tampa Bay region, up to west of Apalachicola, due to Helene's very large size, it's moving lots of water around. So even in areas like Tampa Bay, we're expecting to see as much as 8 feet of inundation above ground level as those strong winds funnel the Gulf of Mexico water up into the Tampa Bay region. So everybody along these storm surge evacuation zones want to be very safe, especially at night. Don't be out driving around in areas that could be flooded. Now, again, Helene is moving very quickly to the northeast, as I mentioned, and with a powerful hurricane moving fast, it's not going to have time to weaken very much before it moves quite far inland and brings the threat of hurricane conditions through much of north central Florida, including the Tallahassee area, the Big Bend region, and hurricane warnings are in effect for much of southwestern and west central Georgia, just to the south of the Atlanta metro area, and that includes places like Albany, Macon, just west of Waycross, Bainbridge, down to the Tallahassee area, down almost to Cedar Key. And these areas, you're going to see the potential for substantial structural damage, widespread tree damage, significant long duration power outages. In the blue areas, this is where we're expecting to see tropical storm conditions. Charlotte, North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, very concerned about the potential for even gusts to hurricane force in metro Atlanta and along the portions of the southern Appalachians, especially in southwestern North Carolina, portions of western South Carolina. So again, in all of these areas, you should be prepared for potentially long duration power outages, unsafe environment. You want to be sheltering in place. Most wind fatalities in tropical storms and hurricanes happen due to trees falling on people in their cars or in their homes or outside. So please shelter in place in a safe location through the duration of this event. Then we have to move on to the flash flooding threat. Even though Helene is going to be moving quickly, it's going to bring the potential for catastrophic flooding from heavy rainfall all the way from western North Carolina, just to the west of Charlotte, Hickory, Asheville, upstate South Carolina, at the Atlanta area, down through Macon, Albany, Bainbridge, Tallahassee, down to the Big Bend coastline. Everywhere you see in pink is that level 4 out of 4 risk for flash flooding. That's the highest risk we paint. Everywhere in this red area is 3 out of 4. That includes Charlotte, Columbia, eastern portions of Alabama, southeastern and eastern Tennessee, and up into southwestern Virginia. Some of these locations are going to see up to 20 inches of rainfall, especially along the southern Appalachians. We're expecting catastrophic and life-threatening flooding and flash flooding and urban flooding, and the potential for widespread landslides in these areas. We also have the potential for again, widespread power outages. I want to talk a little bit about post-storm safety. With power going out, people are going to fire up the generators they have. Make sure you use those safely. We lose a lot of people after major hurricane landfalls to carbon monoxide poisoning from improper generator use. So that's a significant risk for everybody under those tropical storm and hurricane warnings. There's also the potential for tornadoes. We have tornado watches in effect for portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, several tornado warnings in effect. So for anyone in these areas, you want to make sure you have your wireless emergency alerts turned on your phone, have a NOAA weather radio so that you can be alerted to hazardous weather, tornado warning, or flash flood warning overnight, especially if you're going to be asleep. So let's touch on, again, the key messages here for Helene as we head into what's going to be a very dangerous Thursday night and Friday for much of the Florida and the southeastern U.S. We're expecting a catastrophic and deadly storm surge along portions of the Florida Big Bend coast, where we are expecting to see inundation as high as 20 feet above ground level. If you've been asked to evacuate and you still can do so safely, please get out of those evacuation zones in that region. We're also expecting catastrophic hurricane force winds within the eye wall of Helene, where it makes landfall along the Florida Big Bend coast tonight. And hurricane force winds are going to spread inland across portions of northern Florida and Georgia overnight tonight and early Friday. So again, shelter in interior portions of well-built structures, well-built homes, away from windows, away from the potential for falling trees to hit you. Damaging wind gusts are also going to penetrate well inland, especially over portions of Georgia and the Carolinas, especially in the southern Appalachians. Again, please be prepared for power outages and wind damage in those areas. And finally, last but not least, the catastrophic and life-threatening flash and urban flooding threat that's going to play out all the way from the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend region through Georgia into the Carolinas tonight and Friday. We're expecting widespread, significant flash and urban flooding, landslides, as well as river flooding in those areas. So again, please stay tuned to sources of trusted information as we go through the night tonight on Thursday and into Friday. We'll be here at the National Hurricane Center. You can always come back and get information from us.
So it's not, it's a dangerous situation unfolding. They're already getting tons of rain around those parts, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. A lot of moisture to be falling. Lots of opportunity for flooding, flash flooding, and all the things. So everyone do what you can to stay safe out there for sure. Butterfly, did you drop down? You there? Be having a technical difficulty. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
But I did drop down, so yeah.
Oh, it's only 4:43 right now our time. Let me see something. Yeah, so they never went back in the courtroom. They were doing their little closed hearing thing. I'm going to play you guys a little bit of something. This was there's two things really. I think one is really a lot longer than the other one. So I'm only going to play this. When I come back later, I am going to come back later and do another show. I'll play this other thing, but I want to give you guys a little bit of a glimpse of what a Cat 3 type storm can and cannot do. While it's playing, I'm going to run grab a cup of coffee real quick. Let me pull it up for a second. Now this was a couple years ago. It's now been 18 years since this hurricane hit, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's hard to believe it's been this long, but it doesn't seem like it was that long ago to me. All right, I'm going to go grab coffee while this plays. I'll be right back, but I'm listening.
15 years since our area took a direct hit from a major hurricane, but it's hard to forget Hurricane Ivan back in 2004.
Sunday marking the 14-year anniversary of the storm that just devastated the area. Lee Peck is live for you now in Gulf Shores, where Ivan made landfall. And Lee, Ivan set a whole bunch of records at the time, one of which still stands today.
Well, that's right, Byron and Lise. Imagine for a second a buoy recorded a 91-foot wave in the Gulf near Ivan's Eye. That's 91 feet. But get this, computer models say that Ivan's wave height was actually exceeded 130 feet. Those massive waves created a storm surge that would come all the way up to here at Fort Morgan Road and Highway 59. This highway right here closed all the way to the beach. Now that storm surge was bad, but the 120 mile per hour sustained winds, that's what did the most damage.
It came ashore overnight, making landfall as a powerful Category 3 storm. By early morning, it was very clear the central Gulf Coast took a direct hit from Hurricane Ivan.
There is a condominium just totally destroyed, about 4 units together, and the first 3 units were sitting down.
From Gulf Shores to Pensacola Beach, the devastation was widespread.
There's a roof that was lifted off a house and dropped.
Floating in the water.
Beach condos completely leveled and roadways destroyed. To look at what the storm left behind, it's hard to believe there were some who chose to ride it out rather than evacuate. Desperate for help, calls came in to 911.
Sheriff's Department 911.
My mother cannot breathe.
Okay, where's she at?
She's in my kitchen. We're trying to get her out of here, but this storm is so bad. It's so destructive, but there's nothing I can do. Me and my dad are trying our best.
Okay.
We're going to lose our mom, man.
Sir, hold on. Let me transfer you to EMS so they can help you with medical.
Aside from being slammed by 120-mile-per-hour winds, the Gulf Coast also experienced historic storm surge. This video from Waterville shows the force behind it. It would take days for the water to recede.
We're actually still in Gulf Shores right now on Highway 59 South, and if you look over my shoulder, you can see the water is still there on the road.
Ivan would claim 14 lives in Florida, 8 in North Carolina, and other deaths reported in Georgia and Mississippi. Still 14 years later, the storm is serving as a deadly reminder to get out of harm's way.
And to see the destruction and look back at storms like Hurricane Ivan, even Hurricane Katrina, another reminder to evacuate once the order is given. Live tonight in Gulf Shores, Lee Peck, Fox 10 News.
This is an ABC 3340 special presentation.
We have a powerhouse, symmetrical, classic major hurricane.
The building was shaking. You could hear the building groaning and moaning. We were told by the police department to move off the beach because we may be stranded because of flooding.
Orange Beach looking like a war zone. Right now, these lanes are approximately 5 feet underwater.
And almost every condo appears to have some damage.
And that is Alabama Highway 59. This is unbelievable.
The destruction is absolutely awesome. This is what it looked like when Ivan came ashore last night.
And this is what it looks like tonight, exactly 1 month later. Good evening. I'm James Spann, live from the Alabama Gulf Coast in Orange Beach, and this is Face to Face with Hurricane Ivan. On September 16, 2004, Hurricane Ivan scored a direct hit on the Alabama Gulf Coast, packing sustained winds of over 130 miles per hour. Damage was widespread and severe, affecting much of the state, but especially the Gulf Coast. Tonight, during the next 60 minutes, we'll take a look at the destruction.
Okay. Sorry, I was grabbing my coffee. It ran into the next one I was going to show in a minute. But that was the small piece was just like a little sampling of what things are going to look like to, when this storm rolls through there. That's when it's going to get real. Yeah, it's going to get really real, really fast for a lot of people. And even if you do get to safety and you didn't put yourself in a bad position, you did everything right. Once this storm moves out, a lot of people will forget about it. People who live here can't. They have nowhere to go. They have no power. We have no grocery stores open. Back when Ivan hit, that was the first time they used FEMA trailers like that. They did it after Katrina, but we're talking about Florida. After Hurricane Andrew in the 90s, they had to throw up tent cities, military style. They didn't know what else to do. They hadn't had a catastrophic storm in, I think, since 1969 when Camille hit Biloxi, Mississippi. And when Camille hit Biloxi, I think I was like 2. And I remember growing up and hearing about that storm. And then I saw what Frederick did in 79. Then I saw what Ivan did. I saw what Andrew did to South Florida. It's crazy that they do get better at predicting and we get better at preparing, but it's what happens after the storm that's bad. And you got your bad actors who want to run around and loot and do all the crazy things. Fortunately, that has not happened to the scale it happened during Andrew and Katrina over in Louisiana. That hadn't happened here with bad storms. I don't think around these parts people want to be that foolish, honestly.
Right.
People don't, they don't play. Not a lot of people are going to play with what's left of their home and their belongings. It's just
Right.
uncalled for. But it's getting in there and getting supplies to people and getting the water in and getting the non-perishables in. They're staged all around us right now. We
Right.
have all of the electrical companies that are going to come to help. They're already staged and sitting on go 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
outside of town. They're not at home 5, 6 hours or states away waiting to come. They're already sitting there 2 to 3 hours away, staged and ready. The tree guys, all of the tree companies, Ashland sends trucks from all over the state will be en route. Wherever the area is designated they need to go to. The church organization, the rescue groups like Joe works with, they're out there in full force, already prepared and getting ready to go in and do what they got to do. Then you have all the people who, like the church groups, who gather the supplies and load up and are some of the first ones in there to go hand out. And let me tell you, when you see somebody driving down your street offering a bottle of water,
Take it.
it's a godsend, right? It
Right.
really is. Or when you're standing there and you're looking at everything is gone. We had this one church that was set up in town, and these people came driving down the road when you could actually get down the road. It was like probably days into the storm, and I still hadn't got myself together. Like I had gotten to my mom's, but I had nothing, like literally nothing, except what my family was giving me. But we went back out to the land, to the house, because everything was there and exposed in the yard. There was people's stuff was everywhere. So everybody was just still trying to find their stuff. But these people came down the street, and they were from one of the local churches, and they invited me and my friend to come down to the church. And when we got in her car and we drove down there along with another lady from the same street. They had a whole entire room set up. Like, you could just go in there and go, what do you need? Toiletries, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause you don't think about it until all of that's gone, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just, it's nice to see people come together when the help comes
Mm-hmm.
in and not watch everybody go back to the next big news item.
Right.
And that happens a lot. And it's going to be easy to sit here pre-storm and talk about all the things Floridians should be doing to get ready, when I bet you 95% have done just that.
Right.
There's going to be that small percentage that didn't, and it's like whatever. But most of them are taking it seriously. They are doing all they can to be prepared. And even if you do everything right, you are still going to find yourself in a situation sometimes you couldn't help. And that's when grace should be given, and prayers and thoughts, whatever you do, because I'm sure your region has its same fair share of bad weather situations that I don't want no
Oh,
part of.
definitely.
I couldn't
Yeah.
live in tornado country. Don't be yelling at me. There's a siren all of a sudden. I got to run for my life. Hurricane, I
Mm-hmm.
got days to get out of the way. That tornado,
Yeah.
I got, what, 5 minutes? That to me
Right.
is a different level of scary. I don't want no part of that. We don't even have tornado sirens around here, you know? So
Yeah.
you got wildfires in certain areas. Why would you live in an area where your house could burn down any minute? You know,
Right.
it's like, don't ask me why
Mm-hmm.
I live in hurricane country. I'm not moving.
Right.
I
You
don't
live
want
where
to.
you live, and
You live
people,
where you,
yeah,
exactly.
that.
And everybody's like, everybody in Florida should get out. You gonna put us all up at your house?
Right. I mean, there's a danger no matter where you go. Like, I live in Central Texas, so we're far enough inland that we're not really affected by hurricanes, but we get the tornadoes and things like that. But
Yeah, you still get the wind
it's
field if one
something
takes a
everywhere.
direct. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you get a direct hit over, because Texas ain't no different. They get
Mm-hmm.
slammed. The
Right.
Galveston Bay hurricane was in, what, 1800s, and to this day it was still one of the deadliest storms in American history. You can look
Mm-hmm.
it up. The the hurricane that hit Gal, I don't even think they know what category that storm was. It was
Wow.
before they began to categorize them. And there was
Mhm.
only a time that you only knew they were coming because the barometric pressure began to drop.
Right. They didn't
And
have all the stuff we have now
yeah, and
to
I'll tell
track
you
them.
what, it's been so hot in Florida. Yesterday was so muggy, and it's
Mhm.
normal, but it gets worse when there's a storm in the Gulf. But
Mhm.
today, it's been a whole different story since I've been awake, or since this morning. It's been cold, and that's a dead giveaway. There's something different has changed. The pressure's dropping. And every
Mhm.
time, when that pressure drops, that hurricane increases. But there was a time, and a lot of old Florida homes still have their barometers outside because that's
Wow.
how the old sailors knew there was a storm coming. That barometer would drop, pressure's
Mhm.
dropping, and if it continued to drop, there's a big storm coming out of the Gulf. I don't even know if they knew they were hurricanes, just big storms coming.
Right.
It's insane. And if you look at old maps of Florida, um, it, the land dipped out into the Gulf a lot further than it does now. It's just been slowly chipped away at over time, you know, and that erosion will continue to happen, and it
Mhm.
continues. Um, we had to go through a lot of stuff after Ivan to help with the natural beach erosion out there. And our sand is so unique. You can't just go get sand filler from other locations and bring it. That's a no-no. Our sand
Yeah.
on the Gulf Coast, I'm not talking about the Atlantic side of Florida, the Gulf
Mhm.
of Mexico side. We have even it doesn't always go down the whole West Coast either, but it's very
Right.
particular sand, and it's all made of clear quartz crystal washed down out of the Appalachian Mountains.
It's
By the
beautiful.
time it gets here and deposits onto the shore, it comes out as pure sugar white sand, and it
Mhm.
squeaks and it glistens because it's full of clear quartz crystal, and you can
Yeah.
literally feel the energy while you're out there. I can.
Yeah.
I
I
It's
brought
a
some
whole
home with me.
right? You gotta bottle
It's-
some of that sand and bring it. If you don't, you ain't living, right?
right.
Um, as
Exactly.
part of the uniqueness of the Gulf Coast is our sand alone is different. Um,
Mm.
so there's just a lot of things, and personally, I don't agree with people living directly on the beach. Not only are you taking away public space,
Yeah. I agree with that.
accommodations for people have taken away our beach. Like we, as locals, we literally have few places we're actually designated we can go. We're
Yeah.
not allowed to go walk behind your condo with your little blue chair. You may not like it. Well, excuse me, I live here.
Right.
You know,
I was here
it's
first.
like, all right, I was here first. And only so many feet of beach you can walk on without getting in trouble before you stumble onto. That's like, jeez, give me a freaking break. Y'all cannot, even if you buy a home on Pensacola Beach, you're not buying that land. You're leasing it for 99 years.
Wow.
You get a lease, and that's all you're getting. You do not get to own any land on the beach. You get to lease it, you know. But
Mhm.
they overbuilding, overpopulating the shorelines. It's too late to correct it now.
Yeah.
They've stopped a lot of it because there's nowhere else to build out there. You know what I mean? So a lot of
Mhm.
it's been stopped. But if you look at the coast of Florida, up and down it, that's all you see is buildings and buildings and buildings. It shouldn't, you know, be full time for people.
Right. It just ruins the land, and I mean, there's places that you can live close enough to go to the beach without having to live on
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I get it. If you're a tourist, you want to be right there and stay right there. It's super convenient. It's who doesn't want to wake up and look out their back door and see that beautiful Gulf with the sun over it. I would love it. Absolutely would be my dream, but it's not a dream when a storm comes. That's a
Right.
big headache I don't want to have. And I gotta lose all my stuff, and I don't know, man. Fight with insurance companies, like ugh. But you know,
Yeah.
once you allow overpopulating and overbuilding and didn't think about when I was growing up, you could still take your four-wheel drive to the beach and ride on the dunes, And then some people got really smart and were like, that's not a good idea. Those dunes are protecting the beach. And we're out there destroying them. And I remember when they changed the law, my dad didn't care for the beach. He's a river guy. Put him in the river, in the woods. That's his happy place. But we would go to the beach. And
Right.
he didn't want to go out there if he couldn't go out there and take a truck and tear up shit, you know. But it's like, Dad, come on, we got to protect it at the same time. I understood why they didn't. To others, it was like, oh, they're going to tell us we can't ride out there. But no, you can't. I know a lot of places you can drive on the beach. You can't do that on my beach. Well, for one thing, you'll get stuck.
You're
And
right.
then we'll laugh at you. You pull off too far into that sand, try
They're
to turn
not from
around.
here.
Yeah, you can tell. We're just sitting there laughing, going, uh-oh. First, they picked up a jellyfish and touched it and thought that was a good idea.
Oh,
Now they're
no.
parking over here in this sand. That wasn't a good idea either, was it? I hope you use that sunblock, because that really won't be a good idea come tonight. Poor things. We do try to help when we can. We're not haters. Really, we're
Yeah.
not.
We didn't park anywhere near that. Because
There's a
on ours you can, and most places you won't get stuck because it's a different sand, so not the same thing.
Yeah, it depends on
Once
where.
in
Well, we do got the big parking lots out there, but you can park up and down along the roadside, but as long as you keep two wheels on the pavement. And a lot of them don't
Right.
know that. They don't even think about it because that sand is so, you've seen how it is. And they
Mhm.
don't know, they don't realize it's like that, and they pull completely off, and now they're in it, and there's no going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, there was this one guy who literally spent, like, the whole day just driving up and down the beach road with his four-wheel drive and his winch. He's like, "I'm not even gonna leave. I'm just gonna stay here and pull people out all day. It's fun." Dude, really?
You do you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's
It's like
funny.
we were telling everybody there's a guy down there pulling y'all out for free. We'll go tell him. Hold on. Be back in a minute. Be back.
Right.
You know what? It would suck to be here as a tourist and all of a sudden have a hurricane coming at you. Because what do?
Oh,
You
yeah.
just pack it up and get the hell back home. And I would get so frustrated, like ruining my vacation. You stupid hurricane.
Mhm. Well, we went in July, so I was still kind of worried about the weather then. And I mean, I know all about like the daily showers and stuff, so that didn't
Season
bother me.
used
But
to
I was
run.
like,
Well, hurricane season used to run from June to November 1st.
mhm.
It's been extended for the last few years. It runs from May until like December. We had, I
Yeah.
think it was September, October can be the height of our season here in the Gulf area. But
Mhm.
we've had all the way up until late November, mid-November, when storms were still trying to form out there.
Wow.
And that's when they extended the season. And we're like, damn, because it gets, when I
It's
have,
getting longer and longer.
yeah, I can have beach weather in May and have friends from like other parts of the country tell me it's still snowing at their house. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
How?
wow.
Like my friend lives up around Chicago somewhere, and there will be times in May, I still got a little bit of snow. I'm like, holy
Wow.
cow. We're already at the beach. That's how long
Right.
that Gulf's been warm.
Yeah.
So hurricane season literally runs all summer long for us. It doesn't crank up until the end of the season like this
Yeah.
for the big guys. Just
Oh, my
because,
prayers are with everyone
yeah,
there, and
most
hopefully it's not
definitely.
too bad.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm gonna I know they have what should be actually right now. Let me see something real quick. I'm gonna let you guys go in a second. We'll come back in a little while. Let me see if they gave an update that I wanted to look at. And I'm gonna get my live shots going, so I want to be able to look at some of the live imagery that's going on. This guy keeps talking, and I had him shut off. Let me silence here, and it gets on my nerves. I'm like, stop talking. I can't concentrate. Man, there's some stuff happening in another case we were following that I'm not really caring for, and it's like I almost kind of want to talk about it, but kind of don't. I don't know if it's worth talking about. Okay, let me see if this is one of the ones. Okay, this was actually taken. When was this? This morning or a few hours ago? I'm just give you guys a little bit of look at how it looked a few hours ago in this area. So this is around Pinellas County, Florida. We have a lot of roads that come really close to the water like that. But wow, I wouldn't be driving on that damn road. I'm surprised that road's not
I know
closed.
it could easily take
Look
you.
how, yeah, I mean, it's just throwing water up there.
It
Like the
doesn't take much
bridges.
to just, yeah.
Okay, that water can push a car. Normally,
Uh-huh.
our bridges close at tropical storm force winds, which is going to be 35-mile-an-hour winds. This is down in
Yeah, that's
Pinellas
okay.
County. They should have the same thing, actually. These are, oh, Lord, he got doused
Is
with
that
water.
live right now or is that earlier? Because it's
No,
probably
this was a
worse
little
now.
bit, it's worse now. This was earlier. For some reason, I changed my wording, or my wording. I changed some settings earlier. Now I got shit so tiny I can't hardly read it. Hey, I fixed my screen sharing issue, I think.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, girl, that thing gave me a headache for days. I was ready just to just
What
forget it.
what did you figure out? What was it?
You gonna make me say it?
You can tell me later.
Well, I had my backup channel's YouTube account up, but I didn't have my actual channel's YouTube account attached to that account. It was a whole thing, yeah. And I realized, I was like, wait a
Oh,
minute,
okay.
wait a minute. And I've been trying, I'm thinking it was a setting, a Google setting that whole time. And I think it was a me setting. Clearwater. Okay. Thank you, Firefly. You're not too far from really from that area though, are you? I know you're more towards central.
Yeah,
I think that
me
was the only
settings are the worst because then you have no one to blame it on.
yeah. I know, right? Like, I wanted to, but and like then I was scared to do anything. I'm like, wait a minute, what if I forget what I just did? So I had to I tested it like 5 or 6 times. Like, okay, it's working right now, because I so didn't want to have to use that other account because I just don't ever use it, and I don't have the controls set up the way I do for this one, and it was just so damn aggravating. But I think I fixed it. So
Are there any
I'm
live feeds or just
looking
videos?
for. Let's see. Right here is.
We have a good culture in Florida for prep, and you know, we'll see. I think people have. You look at kind of these paths of how they're projecting it, and people have taken it seriously. Is it going to be a direct hit on Tallahassee? Well, the most recent models say maybe it's going to go just east, but you're going to have impacts that are going to be significant. I mean, you are going to have hurricane force winds. If it hits in Taylor County, you're still going to have hurricane force winds in Leon County. I mean, that's just the reality. So I think people have done a good job. I think that they've taken it seriously, certainly on a preparation from power to logistics and then the local governments. And so we'll hope for the best over the next 6 or so hours in terms of minimal amount of damage, but there is going to be damage and there's going to be a response. And I think we'll all be on top of it. All right. Thank you. Oh, and let me just say to our wonderful First Lady, happy anniversary, 15th year anniversary. Spent in the Emergency Operations Center. May not have been what we had drawn up back 15 years ago, but I just wanted to send her my love.
Joe, stop it.
How romantic.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Casey. I got my feet. That's my fine governor, y'all. Everybody liked him. Everybody liked him for a minute, and then they didn't like him for a minute. Now they
I
like
know,
him.
right?
Everybody outside of Florida, we're used to him. He is what he is. I don't
Yeah.
not like him. I don't love him. I don't hate him. But I agree,
Yeah.
Joe. All them state troopers in Florida got them tall hats like that. Like, what if you broke and ran after a prisoner? You're gonna lose that 10-gallon hat. I've never understood
I just saw the toddler
the
lifting his
reasons why you gotta have such a hat like that. Does
Why
it
you gotta
make you
talk about short people, Joe?
He needs something. DeSantis should have been more DeSantis. Just be you, dude. Don't try to be a mini me of anybody. Just
Yeah, because then
be
once you fall, you'll never live it down. You fall in them boots.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry. I was scrolling through I saw a Delphi thing coming down later. um,
You're gonna go down rabbit hole.
yeah, I'm not even going. Man, don't get me started on rabbit holes.
Reflectivity, so that way we can see the hook echo and exactly where it is. Let's have the live camera in my box. Oh, yeah. And let's have Greg's switch over to Wink Live Doppler 3X Betty. I think that's a combo. Okay, so let's have the live shot behind me. Okay, that way we can get a visual on it, and Greg's going to cover it on radar. There we go. Okay, and once again, not seeing much right now. That's where we're looking. Not much, but that could change at any point.
Kind of right in that general area, right where I'm kind of circular, right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then why don't we do a flip-flop? Let's punch up. We'll keep the 2-box going. Let's flip it. I'll take radar. Greg can take behind the live camera of Fisherman's Village.
This guy's like, let me.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll continue to monitor. And then also in the back, if you could continue to track this cell as it is working its way through Port Charlotte. So
you kind of see a little bit of that lowering right in that
a little bit
right there.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can literally see how fast this cloud base is moving to the north. I'm literally watching how fast it's moving just within 30 seconds.
Could we move the Fisherman's Village camera to the east and to the right and zoom in just a touch? So again, on my screen, you can see Charlotte, the Port Charlotte Beach Park. That's where the hook echo is right now. It's crossing over Edgewater Drive. And then you can see on Greg's camera, the lowering as it is. Let me show you exactly where this is.
Somewhere right in that general area.
Yeah. Edgewater Drive, Higgs Drive, Sinclair Street, Southwest, Salem Avenue. If you're hearing some of these being listed off, you are in the path of this possible tornado.
Yeah.
Let's continue to move that Fisherman's Village camera to the right, 65 miles an hour. So it's going to be a hole in it, and we're going to have to constantly move it.
Yep.
Yeah. And all right, let's bring that camera to full now, and let's see if we see anything. And nothing too concrete. In the middle part of the screen,
Maybe a
I do see a dark intensity of the rain. But if you have if you have damage at your place, if you have any injuries or pictures or videos, feel free to send them in at tips, and then that way we can try to get that on TV. Greg?
Just wanted to add one quick thing, Matt, is a turn on Doppler 3X. That hook is pronounced as it was even 5.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So that is some good news right there.
Yeah, it's notice how we're not seeing the curl.
Right.
It's a little bit more straight down.
Yep.
So that can sometimes be a sign of weakening. Let's keep that trend going. I love it.
Yep.
Tropical systems, though, can cycle up and down. They can tighten up. They can weaken. But right now, the trouble area is now, if I were to really pinpoint it, Neil Armstrong Elementary. Again, you were under the warning the last time. And then we also have Alton Road, Orlando Boulevard, Kingsway Elementary. And this is a very populated area, so let's keep that sucker up in the clouds and not on the ground. And this is going to, hey, let's get those, let's get the cameras ready for I-75 Kings Highway northbound look. So that'll be mile marker 170, because I believe it'll be pretty close to that. So Kings Highway, let's do mile marker 170 and northbound. And yeah, this should get a real good look at it. And over the next, I would say 5 to 10 minutes. And the possible area is going to be crossing I-75. And you're going to get as good of a look at it as we have here momentarily. This is mile marker 170. Looking to the north, you can see the heavy rain on the top left-hand portion of your screen, and a little bit of a lowering, nothing too suspect at this point. With happy to see just a couple drivers right now on I-75 here at 6 o'clock on a, was it Thursday? Thanks, Helene. I don't know what day it is. Let's go back to Wink Live Doppler 3X as the area of rotation is, yep, it's right on top of Veterans as well as Peachland Boulevard. So that's going to be the area of rotation. I would say Orlando Boulevard. Let's see if we can get some more specifics here. Let's see. Allworthy Street, Madeline Avenue, Pearl Street, MacArthur Drive. And I would say the timing is now here to let's revisit that Kings Highway camera. I think we're getting there. And yeah, there it is. We're going to get a really good look at it. And I tell you what, punch me up, if you could, please, up on that shot. Okay, so you see that right there. That's it. So this is the shot. And we're going to see if we have any, look how fast that's moving, this entire complex. And right now, just a lowering, but I'm looking at that right there, a bit of a lowering. Sometimes you have a situation where it looks like a funnel, but it's not rotating. It's called the scud cloud. If it's a funnel cloud, you're going to know it's a funnel cloud. The presentation is a little bit smoother. So right now, I'm not seeing that. And it would be within this general vicinity now. So no lowering, but looks like we have a little bit right there. A little bit of a lowering right there. Greg, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm also kind of monitoring, Matt, is another kind of red flag-ish cell just to the south of this tour warn, right on top of the Matt Lachey area in Western
Oh, yeah,
Cape
the one we were
Coral as well.
highlighting.
This thing is looking kind of juicy as well.
Yeah.
All eyes right now on this current tour warn, which does expire at 6:45. So we've got about another 25 minutes associated with this current tornado warning for sections of Charlotte County, Western DeSoto, and then Sarasota County, as these isolated cells are booking to the north, roughly about 60 to 70 miles per hour. But did want you to kind of just check out, Matt, that one kind of right on top of the Matt Lachey area as well. That one looks a little bit suspect as well.
Can you punch up velocity on your
Firefly? You better stay safe and vigilant. You're in like the area that could get slammed with some of these bad feeder bands.
camera on your computer?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we still do have a bit of a hook echo that is popping up with.
Did you notice Northport in that shot? Y'all reckon Stern's mom and daddy's hunkered down? I couldn't help myself.
With the cell, which
damn dogs are on high
You know, I
alert.
thought about that earlier.
Maybe they went to Kissimmee and got further inland. I don't know.
which has now crossed I-75.
Right there.
Not far off from Lake Susie.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Greg's got it right there.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see the radar presentation on the left. Radar, the velocity, the wind, the rotation is on Greg's computer.
That's exactly
on the right-hand
what we're
portion of
looking
your
at.
screen. Yep.
Right there.
Yep, he's got it.
Yep, you can see those different colors coming together. That indicates wind's going away from and towards radar, which indicates rotation up in the atmosphere. So that's definitely a pretty strong return right there.
Hey, for our viewers in Lake Susie, just for some peace of mind here, I'm expecting the worst of it to stay away from you, and that would be right along 769. I'll prove that to you. I'll take this back a few frames. Okay. Okay, so Lake Susie, the worst of it stays away. Like Greg said, let's revisit that cell around Matt Lachey. Looks like we have I'm getting two different hook echoes now. Now one in West Cape.
Yes.
And another one over Stringfellow Road. Let's bring up that Matt Lachey camera as you had noted. Okay, can you tell me in the back, is this, we looking east or west? This is westbound camera. That would be able to see the hook echo. Maybe, considering how windy and yeah, it's a rough scene. Have any type of rotation, it would be off the TV screen. But you know, I know we all have commitments and things.
I was on mute. So I say I like these two guys and the way they're doing for their locals there. It's important to to get out the word and watch for these tornadoes, because that is one of the things we don't get. Tornadoes as like a standard in Florida. We get them when they spawn out of hurricanes, and we're not used to them. So people don't. And a lot of these will come out of the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, as a water spout. One came ashore during Ivan. I remember at one point, it was probably about 2 a.m. in that time frame. My ears just had this weird reaction. They say like your ears pop and do all these things. My ears really did have a pressure change. And the next day, or later that evening, actually the next day, but later that day, the waters finally began to recede some. And as they finally did, and they went back and they finally got out of the way, we could see that the house right next door to ours was a solid brick house built in the 70s, was gone.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
It was a pile of bricks. And it took the same wave action we took, but I think the only difference is the water spout came out of the Gulf, and when it hit the shore, it slammed right into that house. At the same, we looked at each other. We're like, we could hardly hear anything. The pressure, you hear that from people who live in tornado alleys, say that pressures in your ears and different things. It was, but I never had that during a hurricane, right? Because it's a steady rain making effect. It's not like a instant little thing. So that happened, and I didn't know what it was. And then when we saw the house after the waters receded, it could have been one of those 90-foot waves slammed into it, but I think it was a water spout that came out of the ocean, the Gulf, and into the house. And fortunately, the old lady who lived there was a senior. Her family had got her because she lived there alone, and she was always calling me. I always looked out for her over there. If she was kind of scared about everything going on around everywhere. So anyway, her family had come and moved her to safety. She never went back. There was nothing for her to go back to. Her husband had already passed on. So it was just her, right? And a lifetime of life in that home. And it was just a pile of, yeah. And she was Miss Jeannie. I'll never forget her. And she was so old. I mean, there was just there was nothing to even go back to try to
repair,
to find, and I don't know what her family ended up ever doing with everything. And I know the property's been sold. In fact, I went down there a couple days ago. I drove down my old street, and the lot that I lived on is vacant. It's like the only lot vacant because the lady who owns it she's not selling it, and she didn't rebuild. But the houses around it have all been rebuilt and up on stilts now. They're not on the ground no more like they were when they were originally built. They're all up on stilts now. They have to be because of our building codes. Things like that changed. But yeah, I don't know what they ever did with all her things or all her stuff. But that lot I lived on was still empty. I was like, I just want to just ride by there. It was kind of surreal,
Yeah. I bet. That's a lot of destruction.
It's going to get a lot of the water spouts, aren't they? I know my niece made it back here. We're only 3 hours from Tallahassee, 2.5, 3 hours. And she came back home, her and her little dog, but her husband had to stay for work. But she doesn't want to have to deal with all that power outage and all the stuff that's going to follow. I'm going to come back on in a little while and bring the latest update from the Hurricane Center. And I'm going to, I got these guys. We can watch some more of their live stuff, coverage as well, because I do want to see some of that. Let me put this right here so I know I don't lose it. And there's some other things that I'm going to bring up to talk about. And I'll see if Joe's available to come and talk to us a little bit later. Are you going to be available later? Do you have some things going on, Butterfly?
Yeah, I have something going on. I can mod, but I can't come back on panel. If I finish what I'm doing early, then I might be able to. For a little while, I still got to work tomorrow, so.
I'll get that picture, Firefly. I saw the notification come. I'm going to go take a look at it, and see if we can get it up here for everybody to see later. But yeah, I'm going to come back live with some more updates, and I just, anybody in the path of the storm, please stay safe. If you're anywhere near that water, go to a shelter. If you have nowhere to go and you think it's too late, it's not. Get to a shelter inland. Just get away from the water. I feel like there's even if you don't live directly on the water, you might think you're safe because you're still in a low-lying area. And even those people, you can't evacuate all of them. So even not just the ones directly on the water you have to worry about. Even people far inland can get hit with tornadoes, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, I'm not going to come into your town and scream at you because a tornado hit and y'all didn't get away in time. Like, you didn't run fast enough. That's ridiculous. You didn't smell the smoke from the fire coming. You should have ran outside with a water hose. That's ridiculous statements, and I won't put up
and it
with
doesn't, and it doesn't help anything. It doesn't.
No, it
because
doesn't.
people are already dealing with something catastrophic, and to say something like that is it's just not right.
I mean, if you get an idiot on the news that says, "Yeah, I stayed here on showing their ass," you have your way with them. But if it's people who tried and thought they were making the right decision and did the very best they could, take it, give them grace. I mean, come on, you got to put yourself in people's positions sometimes. I've watched a lot of newscasters get sideways about things they have no clue what they're talking about. It's easy to say shoulda, coulda, woulda, and all that. But like I said, I'm not going to say there's not dumbasses that'll stay on purpose because they just want to be that way. And there's some who think they are making the right decision. It turns out they didn't make the right decision. Like in my case, there was I really, in my heart of hearts, knew better, but I also knew that water had never done that before. Never in that location compared to other hurricanes. It never got that bad. So it was hard to convince me a Cat 3 that I've already experienced numerous times was going to be that bad. So that's the worry now, that people, I just don't think they're getting the right message out soon enough about what storm surge is capable of doing. Because even they keep going back to reminding you, well, that wind's going to be just as bad. But we know that, we do know. We've been drilled that our entire lives. Get serious about educating about the storm surge. Put building codes in place to protect them. Don't let new things be built where they shouldn't. All these things come into play. Quit being selfish and just be smart. That's all you can do in the end. But all right, guys, well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for checking out the Koberger's status conference, which was interesting. Wasn't a lot done there. We got a little bit of a feel for the new judge, a little bit of a feel that he's not going to let you just take your time because you want to. You got to give me good reasons or you're not going to get your time. I think that goes for both sides of the aisle there. That's not like
he's a more matter of fact, like straightforward.
And he's had a lot of experience in these hot criminal cases where if you go back and you do look, Moscow's tiny. that judge hasn't dealt with any of these types of crimes. It's all been other kind of crime, you know, so it is what it is. So, but all right, I'm going to go check on the family, see what everybody needs, and get all that squared away before I come back in here in a little while and do this again with you guys. Thanks for coming in. If you're in the path of the storm, everybody stay safe. Check back to the community the community post for updates if I'm not live. And we'll be back live in a little while to bring some of the latest updates. Just got
Thank you for having
upgraded.
me again.
And thank you for coming in and joining me. I always appreciate you being here. You keep an eye on things when I'm busy talking or reviewing something, and I super appreciate it. Guys, Joe just said that it's now been upgraded to a Cat 4.
Wow.
Let me go over here to, let me look at something real quick, Joe. Now, a lot of times that worries me because the nighttime heating, or well, the daytime heating, but nighttime these things grow. They tend to grow during the night. They or explode into bigger storms. And where'd it go? It makes me wonder what it'll be like in the morning. If this thing's, if it, and wind speed wise, what time it will actually start making landfall. Because once it starts to interact with the land, that does help with the energy of the storm. It won't like stop it in its tracks or make it slow down all of a sudden, or weaken, I should say, not slow down. But it does start to affect the storm once, like, I changed my screen accidentally to like the dark mode, and it oh, look at this one. Let's see.
I keep mine on dark mode all the time.
Mine used to be, and then I changed it, and then now it's back, and it's kind of bothering me.
Yeah.
But I need to go get my eyes checked.
Oh,
That
wow.
camera is doing some rocking on that thing.
Where's that at? Do you know?
Watlacha Bridge eastbound. I don't, Lee County. Let me see what it says underneath
People
here.
trying to actually drive across there? My goodness.
That bridge has got to be closed. They closed at 30. That's not a first responder sitting there stopping it.
There's no way.
I know they're not trying to get on to an island. They're trying to get off with these last minuters that decided, oh shit, we probably shouldn't stay. Let's go.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, but if you're going to go, you better go now. Because
No.
during that Hurricane Ivan piece I showed you guys earlier, it showed you the bridge. If you remember, you saw a bridge that had pieces missing. That was a bridge that over the Escambia, over Pensacola Bay. The bridge was closed because we were already experiencing tropical storm force winds. They closed. So they were actually at hurricane strength winds when the bridge collapsed, or sections of that bridge began to collapse. There was a box truck that drove down the interstate, and you got across that bridge as part of our interstate system. And he didn't heed the warning, and he went across that bridge, and the section collapsed while he was going across.
Oh my goodness.
And he didn't make it. They
You
found his
Did you see
truck.
Joe's comment?
Oh, I was at the NHC page, yeah. Oh, that's the briefings on there. See, that's this one, didn't we?
The southern Appalachians, especially in
Yeah.
southwestern North
Hang
Carolina,
on, let me go back.
portions of western South Carolina. So again, in all of these areas, you should be prepared for wide, potentially long duration power outages.
It's the marine briefings from this morning.
To reset and show you the broad picture here on radar. If we could punch that up full screen, the eye right now passing just off the shore of Holiday, kind of due west by 90 miles. That gives you a good idea that it's now lifting north of Tampa. We're about 15, 20 minutes ago, we were able to draw a straight line there and find the system's center. That lightning still persisting, Jim, and we saw it really ramp up just about 30 minutes ago as this was actually strengthening. We now know into a Category 4 hurricane. Closer look for our friends in Citrus County. A new band pushing through now with some very gusty winds, likely starting to see the potential for more hurricane wind gusts right along the coastline as this pulls farther north. Lakeland, you've been mostly dry throughout at least the good start of this event, and now more bands are pushing their way through your area next. This is right over I-4 east of Temple Terrace, now pulling away from downtown Tampa, and it's going to work its way deeper into Polk County next. Palm Harbor, Clearwater, Pinellas Park, more rain just off the shore, finding its way onshore. But remember, this is not going to be a prolific rain event. This is mainly going to be a surge event, and that's, of course, going to be our focus heading into the later stages of today. There's that one tornado warning just to the south. That is going to be active for at least another 15 minutes or so, as we just had a new one for DeSoto County. I'm going to look into that, as that storm system actually has a long ways to go before it would lift into DeSoto County and potentially be an issue for them. Broader picture, though, more impacts going to continue to ramp up for counties farther to the north as that center of circulation passes closer to them. I'm going to continue to monitor all this data and give you an update on the storm surge forecast as well coming up.
We're looking forward to that. Nash, see in a bit. Here's a live look for you outside all around the Tampa Bay area. We've got much more team coverage of Hurricane Helene right here on Fox 13.
Yeah, and Joe, I've got the National Hurricane Center website, well, it's on my phone, but I got it on the computer too. And I got different radars I go there and look at, and I'll pull that up so we can look at it here in a little bit when I do come back on the live. These kids keep coming to the door. I guess it's like that time of day. They're all needing me and asking me questions. I'm like, what? Stop it.
Yeah.
Hold on. So let me go take care of all them for a minute, and then I'm going to come back. Because and try to keep information out there, especially as it gets closer to making a landfall and different things start happening, just keep an eye on what's going on out there. But like Joe said, guys, it has made it to a Cat 4 hurricane now, and it's a very dangerous situation. So keep all of them in your thoughts, and, hopefully nobody gets harmed or loses their life in all this mess, and that everybody's doing what they should be doing to stay safe as they possibly can. But anyway, thanks for your input, Butterfly. I appreciate it. Joe, you as well. Those of you who come in to watch the stream with us and to watch the Koberger hearing, we appreciate it. If you want to come back in a little while, we'll go over we'll probably talk a little true crime in between talking the hurricane updates, just to chill out and, catch up on things and keep an eye on this storm, because it's crazy. And we don't want to see it get too crazy out there. But anyway, thanks again. Everybody go enjoy your dinner or get your kids ready for bed, whatever you got to do. And I'll meet you back here in a little while. I'll set up the live, probably be back in about an hour and a half or so. All right.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Be safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.